Chapter 1287. Before Bei Yunj could come back to her senses, she heard a rich young master say angrily, "This is King blatant discrimination against bad students. If your restaurant is so powerful, why don't you bring the entire family of the college entrance examination top scorer here?" Bei Yunj turned around and looked around. She raised her eyebrows slowly. "Where's my master Du?" Qian Qiao said, "He seems to have something on. He's answering a call outside." "Then let's wait for him." Bei Yunj was interested. She also wanted to know how many points Shidu had scored in the college entrance examination. The people beside her could roughly guess Bei Yunj's intentions. Someone reminded Bei Yunj softly, "Master Du skipped grades and went to high school back then. He was eligible for admission in his second year. But after that, he went to Neely University and did not take the college entrance examination." Bei Yunj was speechless. Was this person cheating all the way? Soon. Bei Yunj glanced at the restaurant. It looked quite high-end and elegant. She did not know why they held such a strange event. "How many points do we need to go in and eat?" Bei Yunj turned around and asked. Qian Qiao smiled like a bad student and said with difficulty, "You can't order food below 400 points. You can eat on the first floor if you score more than 450 points. You can book a private room if you score 550 points. You can eat on the second floor if you score 600 points. You can eat on the third floor if you score 650 points. You can eat on the fourth floor if you score 670 points. The top 10 of the national ranking can enter the top floor." Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. "You can't eat?" Qian Qiao's expression was complicated. "I'm 549 points." Bei Yunj was speechless. She happened to be stuck and could not book a private room. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. Just as she was about to speak, Fang Shiyun suddenly twisted her waist and stroked her hair flirtatiously as she walked over. "Let me do it." After Fang Shiyun finished speaking, she walked confidently to the front hall and logged into the website to check her previous college entrance examination results. The staff's eyes were filled with shock. "Miss Fang, you scored 657 points in the college entrance examination back then? I didn't expect you to be a top student. I performed abnormally back then. My original goal was the music department of Yun University in Beichuan." Fang Shiyun smiled and happened to see Shidu walking in. A glint flashed across her eyes and her tone suddenly became gentle. "I can only bring everyone to the third floor. I hope everyone doesn't mind. 657 points, I wouldn't even dare to get this much in my dreams." The girl pretended to be surprised, but in her heart, she wanted to embarrass the two female university students present. Qian Qiao subconsciously turned to look at Bei Yunj. As expected, she saw that Bei Yunj was still looking at the girl who had just spoken with a complicated expression. Qian Qiao felt like he was looking at an idiot. "Then, President Hua, do you mind if we go to the third floor for dinner?" The person next to him asked tentatively. Shidu glanced at his watch and said lightly, "It's too late. I have to send my girl back to school." After that. Suddenly, a fearless woman said, "May I know which school Miss Pei is from? The person beside Master Du should also be a top student, right?" Hearing this, the faces of the men who had gathered here to curry favor with Master Du instantly turned ugly. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Did these women have any brains at all? Why did they have to provoke Master Du at this time? "That's right, Yun University isn't far from here. It looks like Miss Pei is from Yun University, right?" Someone continued to add fuel to the fire. This made Qian Qiao frown and he was about to explain to everyone. Who knew? Suddenly, a boy from Yun University's physics department came down with a few takeout boxes. When he saw Bei Yunj, his face was filled with joy and surprise. However, when he saw the dozen people beside Bei Yunj, he couldn't help but say, "Yo, Master Pei, did you move your entire family here to dine and dash? That's too ruthless. P.S. I'm cheering everyone on behalf of Master Pei. Don't be nervous about the college entrance examination tomorrow. Do well, children. Put down your phone and sleep early. Chapter 1288. Bae Yunj was speechless. This restaurant is really too much. Why isn't it closer to Yun University? Otherwise, I think the whole school would be here. The boy muttered to himself. When the others heard this, their expressions changed and they instinctively looked at Bae Yunj. This girl was really from Yun University. Master Pei, their king crab is Ju Zan. Hurry up and go. I'll go back to school first. With that, the boy ran away with the takeout box, leaving the group of people behind in silence. Fang Shiyun and the others who had been slapped in the face had a colorful expression. Bae Yunj glanced at the counter and suddenly laughed lazily. Alright, this meal is on me. With that said, Bae Yunj tugged at Huashidu's sleeve and looked up at him. Then, she walked to the front desk and pulled down her mask. She lowered her voice and said, "Hello, I'd like to book a private room." The lady at the front desk was stunned by Bae Yunj's face, but the next moment, she quickly smiled and said, "Miss, you can log into the website to check your college entrance examination results. Recently, if you want to book a private room in our restaurant, you need to have a college entrance examination score of 550 and above." Bae Yunj's slender and beautiful fingers tapped on the keyboard a few times and entered her personal information. Soon, the college entrance examination score page popped up. The lady at the front desk lowered her head and looked carefully. Her entire body froze. She even suspected that there was something wrong with the machine. The lady at the front desk immediately regained her professional smile and bowed slightly to Bae Yunj. "I'll book a VIP private room for you immediately. All drinks and food are free. I wish you a happy meal." Qian Xiao, who was not far away, was in disbelief when she heard this. VIP private room? All drinks and food are free. What kind of treatment is this? Even Fang Shiyun's expression froze. How many college entrance examination scores were there to receive such treatment? Qian Xiao was curious. Just as she was about to walk over to take a look, a line of words suddenly appeared on the big screen. Then, a voice sounded, "Welcome, XX24 College Entrance Examination Top Scholar Pei XX, to our restaurant. It's our honor. We wish you a happy meal." There was even a line of clear words below. National ranking, first place. Total score, 749. Instantly, the entire restaurant was in an uproar. F***CK, is this the top scorer of this year's college entrance examination? The legendary prodigy himself? Isn't this year's top scholar film Emperor Qin and Almighty Qin's sister? This year's top scorer is the most King Ferocious. He actually got 749 on such a difficult test. Don't talk about it. The principal of Hengda High School said that the father of the top scorer of the college entrance examination was still having a high fever and wasn't in a good state. Is he still human? His condition wasn't good, so he only got 749 points. The waiter almost blurted out, "Top scorer's father," but he quickly corrected himself. "Miss Pei, please follow me to the top floor." "Thank you." Bae Yunj nodded. Huashidu looked at the little girl beside him and couldn't help but smile. Bae Yunj asked subconsciously when she saw the man smiling. "What are you laughing at?" The man scratched her chin lightly. The corners of his peach blossom eyes were seductive. His low and sexy laughter rippled. "Our Yun did very well. She's much better than brother." Bae Yunj's eyes flickered slightly. All along, Bae Yunj didn't think that she was very good. In her previous life, Meng Liang had never been stingy with praising her. It was as if geniuses should be better than others. Later on, Bae Yunj gradually thought so too. Until today. Someone would bend down and tell her gently that she had done a good job. Chapter 1289. After Bae Yunj regained her senses, she instinctively lowered the brim of her cap. Her tone was not cold. Coaxing a child. The man went along with her words and held back his laughter. Do you dislike it that much? Is your brother's coaxing skills that bad? Bei Yunj was about to say something when she paused. The next moment, the man moved closer to her ear. His usual lazy tone was a little more intimate. But your brother only has one child at home. Yun, can you be more tolerant? You'll be able to coax my child in the future. Bei Yunj's long eyelashes fluttered. She was about to say something when she realized that everyone was staring at them. The man's expression was normal. He was unscrupulous in front of everyone. Bei Yunj was even more expressionless. This man was shameless. At this moment, the people who followed Bei Yunj upstairs had mixed feelings. Who would have thought that the beautiful girl next to Master Du was actually this year's college entrance examination top scorer? This was simply too surreal. The college entrance examination top scorer actually looked like this? Especially Fang Shiyun. Her face was stiff and her expression was extremely ugly. Especially when she thought about how she had confidently told everyone that she had failed the college entrance examination back then and had almost been admitted to Yun University. In the end, when they looked back, Bei Yunj was this year's college entrance examination top scorer. It was probably the first time that everyone present had seen the college entrance examination top scorer. Someone laughed dryly. I didn't expect Miss Pei to be so young and promising. You must be very busy with your studies, right? It's all right. It's quite simple. Bei Yunj's casual words made everyone present not dare to continue. Was this the confidence of a big boss? How could Yun University have such a simple major? Qian Qiao tugged at Bei Yunj's sleeve. Bei Yunj, what's your major? Physics. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, everyone looked at Bei Yunj as if they were looking at a living god. Master Du was indeed worthy. He could unearth a treasure with just one dig. However, Fang Shiyun and the others, who saw the people on the scene constantly flattering Bei Yunj, were already laughing so hard that they could barely raise their heads. It wasn't until the end of the meal that they secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Compared to competing with other women, they were more afraid of this kind of studious big boss, soon. Until the end of the dinner. Looking at the backs of Bei Yunj and Wang Yao as they left, Fang Shiyun's group of sisters changed their tune. I really didn't expect that the person Master Du brought along was actually the top scorer of the college entrance examination. That's too amazing. A straight A student is a straight A student. Anyway, I can't afford to offend him. Suddenly, someone changed the topic. Oh right, Shiyun, I still have something to do. I won't be going to your party this time. And me? These women were clearly afraid that Bei Yunj would deal with Fang Shiyun behind her back, so they wanted to see the situation first. And Fang Shiyun looked at these women who used to hold her every day, and actually started to treat her with this attitude. Her face instantly sank. In the car. However, Fang Shiyun's eyes flashed and she immediately called Qin Youjiao. Youjiao, who did you say plagiarized my song in your school? Qin Youjiao stood up from the piano. It's Bei Yunj from the physics department. What's wrong? I saw her today, but, are you sure it's okay for me to do this? Fang Shiyun was unwilling to accept it, but she wanted to see with her own eyes how Bei Yunj fell from the clouds. However, she still had her rationality. The man beside Bei Yunj was Hushidu. P.S. The previous chapter has been modified. You can read it again. Chapter 1290. A glint flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes before she laughed. What's wrong with that? Shiyun, as the victim, you're not the one who should be afraid. Bei Yunj has someone protecting her, but shouldn't they seal your mouth first to please you when such a thing happens? Fang Shiyun's eyes flashed and she was unconsciously tempted. She hated Bei Yunj the first time she saw her. It was only because she had succumbed to reality and accompanied an old man who was more than 20 years older than her for the sake of her career. On the other hand, Bei Yunj stood beside a man like Hoshido easily and was superior to him. How could she feel at ease? But if she could come into contact with an outstanding man like Hoshido, okay, I promise you. Fang Shiyun gritted her teeth. After returning to school, Bai Yunj had only been idle for 2 days before she heard that the current principal and Bai Mingzhang had an argument. It was very ugly. However, when Bai Yunj knocked on the door of the principal's office, she realized that the current principal was just being scolded. Bai Mingzhang sat on the leather sofa with a dark expression. Until Bai Yunj glanced at the two of them and suddenly said, "Principal Xiang." Hearing Bai Yunj's voice, Bai Mingzhang turned around and his anger subsided instantly. "Yunj, why are you here? How does it feel to go to university? Are you happy? Are you busy with your studies?" Bai Mingzhang seemed to have suddenly changed into a different person. His tone was loving and gentle. The corners of Principal Xiang's mouth twitched. He was speechless at the change in his teacher's expression. "It's pretty good," Bai Yunj replied. After a moment of silence, she asked, "Are you guys talking about something?" Hearing that Bai Yunj had finally asked, Principal Xiang heaved a sigh of relief unconsciously and immediately said, "It's like this, Yunj. There's a sudden infectious disease in the north of Continent K. Our seminar has unanimously decided that Director Lin is the most suitable person to go to our nation and cooperate with experts from all over the world. However, Director Lin might have some concerns. However, actually, we can resolve all of Director Lin's worries. Besides, Director Lin's return to scientific research will be helpful to your future." Principal Xiang felt that Bai Yunj would definitely be easier to persuade than Bai Mingzhang. "But who knew," she said slowly, "I don't need anyone to pave the way for my future." Principal Xiang, although these words were arrogant, when she thought about how Bai Yunj had completely defeated the graduate students of Neely University last month, she felt that it was very real. "You're recommending him? Others might not know, but you old fogies don't know that Lan Jun almost lost her life because of the virus experiment? Moreover, because of that experiment, Director Lin also left behind a lot of roots of illness." Principal Xiang was embarrassed by the scolding. He cursed in his heart that the seminar didn't dare to provoke Mr. Bai and made him do this annoying thing. When Bai Yunj heard Bai Mingzhang's words, her gaze instantly turned cold, but she smiled casually. "Principal Xiang, my grandma is soft-tempered and kind-hearted, but I hope that you will respect her opinion. I don't want anyone to use moral sense to bind an old woman in her 60s or 70s, and not let her go even after retirement. As you know, our Lin Academy has also contributed a lot." Principal Xiang was instantly rendered speechless. He also didn't expect Bai Yunj's attitude to be even more difficult to deal with than Bai Mingzhang's. "I only have this one Empress Dowager in my family. If she's really coaxed by you and an accident happens, I don't know what I'll do." Bai Yunj smiled slowly, but there was no warmth in her eyes. However, even Bai Mingzhang was flustered by Bai Yunj's attitude. End of chapter. Chapter 1291. Bai Yunj's tone was cold. "You're on your own." Principal Xiang still didn't know Bai Yunj's identity, but Bai Mingzhang knew it very well. If this ancestor wanted to cause trouble, it would be a large-scale disaster that made one's scalp turn numb. However, Principal Xiang felt very guilty after hearing Bai Yunj's words. He was furious and unconsciously started to add fuel to the fire. "I know you're definitely unhappy, Yunj. Actually, the candidate for the seminar was someone else at the beginning. It's just that. Yunj, you know that in society, no matter where you are, there will always be unreasonable realities and dark sides." These words were obviously telling her that the original candidate had been removed because he had a backer. So it was changed to Director Lin. Hearing this, Bai Yunj snorted coldly, her eyes extremely cold. Bai Mingzhang, who was giving Principal Xiang a look that almost made his eyes cramp, was so angry that he was about to choke. If he continued to spout nonsense to Bai Yunj would probably smash their seminar tomorrow. "Really? Then your seminar is quite interesting." Bai Yunj's calm words made Bai Mingzhang close his eyes unconsciously. He had already expected the tragic outcome. The people in the seminar probably didn't know that although Director Lin did not have a blood relationship, the little girl she picked up 20 years ago was famous for her bad temper in the industry. Just as expected. After Pei Yunj went out, before Bai Mingzhang could speak, she had already called Director He of the institute. She laughed coldly, her tone filled with a chill that made even Bai Mingzhang tremble. Director He, do you know about the recent seminar in the northern part of Continent K? Director He's interest was piqued as he asked with a gossipy expression, what seminar? There's an infectious disease in the north. The seminar has changed the original candidate and asked our Director Lin to go to our nation for research. Bei Yunj licked the corner of her lips and chuckled softly. Why? Do you think I'm easy to bully? Hearing this, Director He's eyelids twitched. Who the F***ck dared to think that this master was easy to bully? Yunj, maybe Director Lin is willing to do this too. Director He also remembered Director Lin's good temper and wanted to smooth things over. However, Bei Yunj sneered and said coldly, you're willing. Dean He, I don't buy the great and glorious role model crap. I don't mind standing in the front, but the people around me can't. If anything happens to our Lin Academy, don't blame me for falling out with you. After saying that, Bei Yunj's eyes flashed with hostility. Dean He shuddered and quickly remembered Bei Yunj's terrifying temper. He immediately coaxed this ancestor. I'll settle it. Yunj, don't be angry. Let's talk things over. He was really going to die. Did none of the idiots at the conference know her true identity, or did they forget her ruthless personality that could flip the heavens? Director He comforted Bei Yunj anxiously until Bei Yunj hung up the phone. However, he had mixed feelings and could not figure it out. How did Director Lin, a person with an unbelievably good temper, raise such a devil? However, after seeing this scene, Bai Mingzhang instantly understood. Indeed, Bei Yunj's irritable personality was the best at dealing with scoundrels who were full of righteousness and morality. He had argued about this 4 or 5 times, but the other party had always prevaricated. But with this person's temper, if that group of people really dared to prevaricate, Bei Yunj would probably even dare to dig up their ancestors' graves. Chapter 1292. Bei Yunj turned around and saw that Bai Mingzhang was there too. Grandpa Bai. Bei Yunj had acknowledged Bai Mingzhang's identity. Hearing that Lin Longjuan's daughter had already acknowledged him, Bai Mingzhang's eyes were beaming. Yunj, I heard that you're at a bottleneck. Bei Yunj hummed casually and did not avoid this topic. How long has it been? Bai Mingzhang could not help asking. Bei Yunj glanced at him and thought for a moment. It's been a month. But half a month ago, I saw you publish a thesis, Bai Mingzhang said instinctively. Bei Yunj did not know how much of a sensation she caused every time she published a thesis. She said carelessly, I wrote this for fun. Bai Mingzhang still remembered his son's student. Because of the high standard and high volume of theses every week, he almost went bald while staying up late. Every day, he would definitely howl 3 times, when will you be a human? Do you think you're being polite by publishing a thesis 3 days before the final exam? When can you enter the bottleneck? Every thesis was the key point of their exam and they had to memorize the thesis. Therefore, if someone asked who had been the shadow in the lives of the research students all these years, it would definitely be her. Unfortunately, these flowers of the motherland did not know that they were already at a bottleneck. However, the speed at which she published her thesis was still as fast as eating and drinking. Bai Mingzhang took a deep breath and had no choice but to face the tricks of a genius. Relax. You're still young. You'll have the ability in another 3 to 5 years. Bei Yunj's long eyelashes fluttered as she looked at Bai Mingzhang. She chuckled and raised an eyebrow slowly. I'll only give myself half a year to break through the bottleneck. Bai Mingzhang asked, so, you have a plan? Yeah, I want to get a few more awards at the beginning of the year to welcome the new year, Bei Yunj said lazily. If these words were said outside, it would be extremely arrogant. However, the person who said this was, it would be best if you can break through in half a year. Although Bai Mingzhang found it hard to believe that Bei Yunj could break through the bottleneck in half a year, he still wanted to give Bei Yunj confidence. After all, he had spent at least 2 years in his bottleneck. Meanwhile, Director he had just contacted the people in the seminar and tried to persuade them to change to a biologist from country R. However, he did not expect to be ridiculed. When Zhong Xinglin found out about this, he couldn't help but fly into a rage. If it weren't for Dean he stopping him, he would have scolded that group of dogs who didn't know how to back themselves up. These people always took advantage of Lin Longjuan's good temper and tricked her into doing the project. Even after so many years of retirement, Lin Longjuan still wouldn't let her go. Old he, don't discuss this with them. Leave it to me. After Zhong Xinglin finished speaking, he called Yu Guang, the former director of the First Research Institute of the Ministry of National Defense. Old Yu, I don't know if you know about Longjun going overseas for research. But you have to tell your students properly. If anything happens to Longjun, see if my gu will let your students off. When this girl's temper flares up, it's not as simple as falling out with you. You should understand why so many famous schools and research institutes in country are willing to work with our computing institute unconditionally in the past 2 years. Isn't it because of all of them? Chapter 1293. Indeed, Yu Guang did not know about this matter. After hearing the cause and effect, he could not suppress his anger. He did not expect that group of people from the seminar to dare to do such a thing. The higher-ups also stipulated that it was best for retired or old researchers in our country to stay away from the risk zone. And this collaborative research would probably require this group of biologists to go deep into the northern part of continent K. However, with Lin Longjuan's age and condition, it was not suitable for her to go to the northern part of continent K. It was no wonder that Bai Yunj was angry. Old Zhong, I'll settle this matter. Don't be anxious. Yu Guang sighed. However, after Longjun, there's indeed no one who can compare to her in the biological field. It's such a pity. What's a pity? Yunj is still young. If you really think it's a pity, let her inherit her grandmother's mantle. Zhong Xinglin teased casually, but he did not expect this to come true. Come on, are you treating Yunj as 10 people? Yu Guang almost wanted to roll his eyes. It was not easy for a genius to appear in the country. He did not want Bai Yunj to collapse from exhaustion at such a young age. After the chat, Yu Guang did not look for the people from the seminar. Instead, he reported the matter directly. Just as the people from the seminar were leisurely thinking about how to persuade Lin Longjun to complete the project for someone else, a document report was sent down. After they finished scanning the entire document, their expressions changed instantly. The higher-ups did not agree to Lin Longjun taking on this mission and requested to change the candidate immediately. What's going on? Why are the higher-ups suddenly interfering in this matter? The expressions of the people from the seminar were ugly as they remembered that the people from the Computing Institute had come to ask them to change the candidate yesterday. Since when did the Computing Institute have so much power? They actually asked the higher-ups to change their candidate. The people from the seminar were in a difficult position. After the other candidate's family found out that the project could not be changed, they immediately rushed to the office for tea. The middle-aged woman maintained herself very well. There were only faint wrinkles at the corners of her eyes, but her gaze was sharp and she gave off an overbearing aura. President Ma, didn't we agree to let Mrs. Lin take over the project? Now that your attitude has suddenly changed, are you playing with me? Madam, how would I dare? Chairman Ma was at a loss for words. The document from the higher-ups meant that this matter was already set in stone. I've heard that Madam Lin doesn't associate with high officials and nobles, and that she's an honest and kind person. The middle-aged woman's tone was filled with sarcasm. I didn't expect her to be so capable. Madam Lin didn't say anything, and you changed your mind? Chairman Ma said bitterly, Madam, this is actually an experience for He Jun. Why don't you? Before he could finish his sentence, the middle-aged woman smashed the teacup on the table, spilling the tea all over the floor. She sneered, President Ma, do you really think I'm here to drink tea with you? It was impossible for He Jun to go to such a dangerous place. I only have one son. Hearing those words, guild leader Ma's headache worsened. The next moment, Mother He's expression softened a little, but the coldness in her eyes remained. How about this? Ask Lin Lanjun to come over right now. I want to talk to her face to face. For a moment, Chairman Ma was even more afraid that Mother He would cause trouble. But not long after. Chairman Ma still gave Bai Mingzhang a call and briefly told him about this matter. Chapter 1294. At this moment, Bai Mingzhang was playing chess with Yu Guang. After receiving President Ma's call, he turned on the speakerphone so that Yu Guang could hear everything clearly. Professor Yu, these are all good students you've taught, Bai Mingzhang said calmly after hanging up the call. He spoke in a bureaucratic tone all day long and did not look like a researcher at all. Yu Guang did not speak, but he was disappointed. Seeing Bai Mingzhang about to get up, he could not help asking, what are you going to do? If Lanjun goes, she will definitely be bullied. It's better if I go. As soon as Bai Mingzhang finished speaking, Yu Guang rolled his eyes. Who do you think you are? You're already so old. Aren't you ashamed? What's wrong? I just like Lanjun and can't bear to see her suffer. Professor, you can't teach your students well, so do you still want to teach me now? Bai Mingzhang mocked him sarcastically. This old thing was really unreasonable. Yu Guang pressed between his eyebrows. What I mean is, don't go. Since the other party is a relative, could it be that Lanjun doesn't have any relatives? Bai Mingzhang was stunned. What do you mean? If you go, Lanjun and you will be gossiped about together if word gets out. Doesn't Lanjun still have a granddaughter? Yu Guang raised an eyebrow, not caring about his student's life and death. Who dares to gossip about us? Bai Mingzhang was silent for a moment. Old Yu, is that really your student? He was too good at finding trouble for his student. That person was definitely the owner of Shiraba. We have to teach them a lesson, Yu Guang said calmly. Bai Mingzhang frowned, but he was a little worried. Yunj is a girl after all. What if she gets bullied? The corners of Yu Guang's mouth twitched. What the hell, girl? Had their research institute forgotten how many times they had gone to the police station to fish that fellow out? At this moment, the owner of Shiraba that the two of them were talking about was still drinking soy milk as he buried his head in the documents. After the call, Pei Yunj was also biting on a transparent bag as she asked in a low and muffled voice, Grandpa Bai, what happened? Bai Mingzhang told Bei Yunj about President Ma. He paused again. Since the other party is waiting, why don't I go with you? After Bei Yunj heard this, the corners of her lips, which were biting the transparent soy milk bag, curled up slightly, and there was a hint of sarcasm in her eyes. Until she lazily raised her head, her Adam's apple bobbed a few times. After she finished drinking, she squeezed the transparent bag into a ball with one hand and threw it accurately into the trash can. She said casually, no need, I'll deal with it. Grandpa Bai, you don't have to tell my grandma about this. Bai Mingzhang's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but smile warmly. Gu, Lanjun has always been unpopular. She hasn't even seen her only son in 2 years. She probably doesn't have the fortune to meet him. However, it is her fortune to have a granddaughter like you. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment before he said slowly, Lin Jiannan didn't dare to come back because I taught him a lesson. I warned him not to come back and seek death. By Mingzhang, the atmosphere suddenly fell into silence. Just as Bai Mingzhang was on tenterhooks and was starting to panic if this ancestor would smash the door of the seminar, Bei Yunj was already walking along the long corridor. According to the office number the other party had mentioned, before Bei Yunj entered, she heard a voice inside, when will Lin Lanjun arrive? She's so arrogant that she can't even be invited, right? Chapter 1295. Chairman Ma looked troubled. Madam, Director Lin is old after all. Hearing this, Mother He immediately sneered. Chairman Ma, don't forget how you got to this position. Who are you speaking up for now? Bei Yunj stopped in her tracks. Her eyes darkened slightly as she twirled the beautiful and special ring on her finger. Madam He. Director Lin is indeed not suitable to go abroad. Chairman Ma's expression instantly turned ugly. Back then, the He family had indeed helped Chairman Ma. Is a scientific researcher so precious? He mother was angry and disdainful. I heard that Lin Longyuan's son ran away, right? Since she has nothing to worry about, why would she let my son suffer like this? Then, Mother He's eyes were filled with disgust as she continued to sneer. Lin Longjun is just pretending to be noble. Otherwise, why would she still be entangled with Bai Mingzhang at such an old age? Isn't she ashamed at all? When Mother He gave birth to her eldest son, she was not young, so she was the same age as Lin Longjun. And in that generation, Lin Longjun was the object of admiration for many scholars and young masters. Therefore, there were many older women who still looked at Lin Longjun with the eyes of the old society. When they saw that Lin Longjun was in dire straits and had no one to rely on, they felt that Lin Longjun deserved it. Who asked her to be involved with so many men when she was young? The seeds of evil left in the old society harmed women and the working class. Just as Mother He was about to say something, the door was suddenly kicked open. Mother He and Chairman Ma were startled. However, when they turned their heads, they did not expect that the person who walked in was a beautiful girl. However, the cold aura around her made people feel cold from the bottom of their hearts. Who are you? Mother He had not recovered yet and her voice was a little shrill. Aren't you looking for Lin Longjun? Pei Yunj glanced at them slowly. I'm her granddaughter. You can tell me if you have anything to say. Mother He did not know where Lin Longjun's granddaughter came from, but Chairman Ma suddenly remembered that this should be the daughter of the Qin family. However, even the Qin family could not easily offend a powerful family like the He family, right? Mother He didn't care about Bei Yunj's background. She sneered, tell you? Lin Longjun hasn't even left the country yet, and she's already pretending that her leg isn't working? He made it sound as if Lin Longjun's decision to leave the country was already set in stone. Bei Yunj glanced at her, her beautiful red lips spitting out extremely calm and infuriating words. Since Madam is here, could it be that your son isn't pretending to be dead, but is really dead? Even President Ma was scared witless when he heard this. She couldn't believe that the person in front of her was Principal Lin's daughter. As expected. Mother He's expression changed. She was instantly flustered and exasperated. You. She took a deep breath, then pointed at Bei Yunj and sneered, well, I didn't expect Lin Longjun to be so powerful. Raising such a sharp-tongued granddaughter. Bei Yunj slowly peeled the soft candy in her hand and laughed lazily. What's wrong? Your son is lying down. Can't he open his mouth? Chairman Ma's eyelids twitched violently. In this extremely oppressive atmosphere, he didn't even dare to breathe. Why was Principal Lin's granddaughter so different from Principal Lin herself? Seeing that Mother He's face was ashen and trembling with anger, Chairman Ma knew that this matter was getting more difficult. Principal Lin was probably going to get into trouble. Chapter 1296. Mother He gritted her teeth. How dare you talk to me like that? Do you know what happens to people who talk to me like that? Bei Yunj took off her black baseball cap and ran her fingers through her hair. Then she casually sat on the sofa. She had an aura that couldn't be ignored. It wasn't something a person of her age should possess. Madam, I didn't come here today to listen to you get angry. Bei Yunj leaned back lazily. Her fingertips gently touched her temples as she played with her cell phone. Tell me, madam. Why are you looking for Director Lin? Can you replace Lin Longjun? What right do you have to negotiate with me? Mother He thought this silly girl was ridiculous. Who did she think she was? She was so full of herself. You don't intend to negotiate, do you? Bei Yunj was in a good mood today. After she put down her cell phone, she smiled and asked slowly. Mother He laughed coldly. Then she picked up the black tea on the table and took a sip. At least you know what's good for you. Just as she finished speaking, President Ma suddenly received 2 emails at almost the same time. His eyelids twitched. He had a bad feeling about this. Then President Ma opened the first email. After reading it carefully, he heaved a sigh of relief. His heart was filled with joy. Old master, he has changed the notice. The final recommendation is still Director Lin Longjun. If it weren't for Bai Yunj, President Ma would have stood up excitedly and bowed to Mother He. Mother He was born into a prestigious family. As the only daughter who was doted on, even her husband had married into her family. Her son took her mother's surname. Naturally, she did things her own way and didn't care about others. When Mother He heard this, wrinkles appeared at the corners of her eyes. She turned her head and said, "Little girl, did you hear that? You should let your grandmother prepare to go abroad as soon as possible. This can be considered as doing a good deed for the country and its people." Bai Yunj only looked up at Mother He. However, President Ma was extremely afraid of Bai Yunj's mouth. He immediately interrupted her and said coldly, "Miss Pei, you don't know how difficult this opportunity is for others. Some people want to go but don't have the right." Finally, the person on the sofa laughed and said unhurriedly, "You're right." When Chairman Ma heard this, before he could catch his breath, he heard Bai Yunj continue, "So, I've just sent a resume to you, President Ma. I plan to work hard and fight for this spot." "You?" Chairman Ma's expression turned ugly. He didn't know what she was doing. At her age, she probably hadn't even finished college, right? There are strict requirements for registration. Even laboratory assistants have to have a postgraduate degree or below. Furthermore, without a national award, it will not be allowed to pass. Chairman Ma frowned. When Mother He heard this, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. He didn't know what sin Lin Longjun had committed to raise such a crazy and stupid granddaughter. Were they treating the project as child's play? What qualifications did she have to fight for a collaboration spot in the laboratory? "Bai Yunj, don't mess around," Chairman Ma said with a dark expression. Bai Yunj said unhurriedly, "What? Could it be that even the position of a laboratory assistant has been decided?" Chairman Ma was so angry that he sneered. "Miss Pei, you're so young. Don't be so arrogant. What capabilities do you think you have?" As Chairman Ma spoke, he clicked on the resume. However, his voice suddenly stopped. Chapter 1297. Chairman Ma's sneer suddenly froze. His pupils constricted and he stared blankly at the words on the screen. Application for collaboration, recommendation for experimental project, applicant, gender, female, age, 21, employer, Computing Institute, main achievements, academician of Country A's Academy of Engineering, K.Z., Busaka Computing Award, Farisk Mathematics Award. Chairman Ma almost threw his mouse away. He jumped up from his chair with a look of horror. What the hell was this? Chairman Ma's thoughts were in a mess. He felt that his brain wasn't enough. Was this the new scientific researcher who had to sign a confidentiality agreement when they met? Impossible. How could she only be 21 years old? Chairman Ma's face turned pale, but he suddenly understood why the higher-ups valued this person so much and even spent so much effort just to protect her safety. This was because she was really a top genius that was hard to come by in thousands of years. There aren't many prizes. There are only two. Bai Yunj continued unhurriedly, but 2 days ago, the organizer called me and nominated this year's physics award. It will be announced at the end of the year. Chairman Ma's face was slightly distorted, as if his muscles were necrotic. Physics award? So the rumors in the industry were true. She was nominated for the Norston Physics Award again. Chairman Ma suddenly came to his senses. You really are. Chairman Ma felt as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat. He didn't dare to say that name and could only stare at Bai Yunj in horror. No wonder. It turned out that the Computing Institute suddenly intervened in Lin Longjun's matter not because of the friendship between Zhong Xinglin and Lin Longjun. It was because Lin Longjun picked up the young lady and raised her. She was the future successor of the Computing Institute. What kind of good luck did Lin Longjun have? Could it be that doing good deeds was really blessed by the heavens? If she picked up one, She wouldn't have to worry for the rest of her life. Mother, he frowned. She couldn't understand what the two of them were talking about. She sneered. Chairman Ma, although this young lady only won 2 prizes, since she is filial, why don't you let her be a laboratory assistant? At most, the He family will pay for her food and accommodation expenses. Chairman Ma's eyelids twitched wildly. Only 2 awards. Regardless of which award it was, the He family might not be able to win one even if they were counted for 180 generations. Also, would it be the He family's turn to take care of the food? If they were in a foreign country, the food that could be delivered to them would have to go through more than 10 layers of safety checks. After all, this was someone who could only see him after signing a confidentiality agreement. Whenever they felt uncomfortable, the higher-ups would probably hold a meeting and carefully select the best doctors in the country to treat them. An outstanding soldier could intimidate the surrounding countries that were ready to make a move and protect their borders. And a super scientific genius could change the fate of a country. However, in the past few years, the number of talents in the country had been increasing rapidly, and many of them had been poached by the neighboring countries. Everyone had been trying to figure out that for a genius of this level to stay in the country, the higher-ups must have paid a hefty price. Chairman Ma was instantly terrified. If he were to risk his life to become a laboratory assistant who was infected with the virus, the higher-ups would probably fly over in a plane and smash his head into the ground. Let the water in his brain be used to water the flower buds of his motherland. Chapter 1298. Chairman Ma's face turned pale, and he could only force an ugly smile. Why? Miss Pei, you must be joking with me. Bai Yunj glanced at him and said calmly, why would I? I also want to do something good for the country and the people before I die. Chairman Ma's heart turned cold. It was over. She had him in her sights. Miss Pei, you're still young. No matter who you ask, you can't take this risk. Chairman Ma broke out in a cold sweat. He was so frightened by Bai Yunj that he was about to cry. He didn't expect that helping the He family would provoke a terrifying existence that he couldn't afford to offend. Ma, what do you mean? Mother, he immediately turned hostile and stood up. Are you saying that this young girl's life is more valuable than my son's? Chairman Ma's lips moved, but he couldn't say a word. He couldn't afford to offend the He family, but he couldn't afford to offend this young ancestor either. What was he, June? He was just better at reincarnating than others. However, for a super genius like him to be born in Country A, to a certain extent, it was a blessing from the heavens. Mrs. He, I'm doing this for the good of the He family. Chairman Ma's expression turned ugly, and he could only hint to Mother He not to go crazy at this time. Oh, Chairman Ma, you're making decisions for the He family? An old and solemn voice suddenly sounded from outside the door. Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows and turned to look. It was a white-haired old man. Mother He walked over happily. Dad, why are you here? I'm just afraid that you won't abide by the rules and make things difficult for Chairman Ma. Elder He had lived for decades more than others, so his words were hard to find fault with. He was authoritative and confident. However, he changed the topic and looked at Chairman Ma calmly. I'll also see how Chairman Ma will personally issue orders. Chairman Ma's face turned pale instantly. How could he dare to issue such an order? He didn't dare to offend Elder He, and even more so. Just as Chairman Ma was in a dilemma, Mother He sneered. How can Chairman Ma issue orders? In Chairman Ma's eyes, Lin Longjun's granddaughter's life is more important than Ah Jun's. Lin Longjun's granddaughter. Only then did old He look at Bai Yunj with a hint of surprise in his eyes. He did not expect that Lin Longjun could raise such an extraordinary granddaughter. But soon, old He also smiled. Little girl, are you here to reject President Ma on behalf of your grandmother? No, I'm here to apply for the position of a lab assistant, Bai Yunj said slowly. Little girl, acting shamelessly is useful at home, but no one will care about you outside. Do you think your life is valuable? Old He's smile didn't reach his eyes. Instead, he snorted in anger, appearing especially contemptuous. You're just in your early 20s, right? He should also understand how to lower his head to reality. As the only successor of the He family, his life is destined to be more important than the others. Then, old master, he glanced at Bei Yunj and said, "You'd better persuade your grandma. As long as she agrees, I can fulfill any of her requests." Before Chairman Ma could speak, old He ordered, "Chairman Ma, aren't you going to release the document?" This isn't." Chairman Ma was instantly forced into a dilemma. His expression was extremely ugly. "Oh, what a rare guest. I didn't expect old He to be here too." The voice of Bei Yunj's old acquaintance sounded from outside the door. Chapter 1299. Bei Yunj glanced at Yu Guang indifferently and continued to play with her phone. Yu Guang looked at the person sitting on the sofa. Bei Yunj was indeed angry when it came to Lin Lanjun. She even started to pretend that she didn't know him. "Professor Yu." Even Mother He greeted Yu Guang politely when she saw him. After all, although Yu Guang was only a professor now, he had made a lot of contributions and was one of the most important people in the scientific research field. He was also the closest to the higher-ups. "Isn't this old Yu? Why do you have time to come here?" Old He laughed heartily and spoke to Yu Guang in a pleasing manner. Chairman Ma saw these big shots and wanted to hide in a corner, not daring to speak. But the next moment, Yu Guang smiled faintly and said, "Isn't this about the infectious disease in the north of Continent K?" Yu Guang couldn't help but say, "Bei Yunj, don't you have any manners now?" "Who knew?" Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and said perfunctorily, "Hello, Professor Yu. Do you want me to pour you a cup of tea?" Yu Guang was speechless. How did this last develop such a temper? Old He's smile froze. He didn't expect that there would be a junior who dared to treat Yu Guang with such an attitude. What was even more unexpected was that Yu Guang wasn't angry at all and was even friendly. "Fine, you see, I won't complain to your grandmother." Yu Guang suddenly lost his cold appearance and became an unreasonable old man. Bei Yunj was speechless. "Okay, let's deal with the matter first." Yu Guang had just received a call from the higher-ups. When he found out that Bei Yunj had applied for the virus laboratory, he immediately called Bai Mingzhang to understand the situation. After that, he rushed here without stopping to rest. The higher-ups said that no matter what, they couldn't let anything happen. "Old He, Chairman Ma, let's have a meeting together." Yu Guang glanced at Mother He. Unrelated people can leave first. Mother He didn't look too good, but after glancing at old He, she still left in her high heels. But just as Yu Guang was about to speak, he saw Bei Yunj walking towards the door as well. "Bei Yunj, where are you going?" Yu Guang was furious. Bei Yunj turned around and replied perfunctorily. She leaned against the wall and tilted her head with a smile. I'm going home to hide my grandma." Yu Guang's eyelids jumped. He didn't care about this Pei's perfunctory words. "Stay here. Let's have a meeting later." Elder He couldn't help but frown. He didn't understand Yu Guang's intentions. What right did this little girl have to attend a meeting with them? Seminar. 20 people sat around a long table. When everyone saw Yu Guang sitting on the left side of the main seat, they couldn't help but be puzzled. Could it be that this seat was reserved for Elder He? After all, Chairman Ma wasn't qualified to sit above Yu Guang. But even if it was old He, it didn't make sense. Everyone's thoughts ran wild, but after old He arrived. When old He saw Yu Guang sitting on the main seat, he was stunned for a moment. But he knew in his heart that this seat was definitely not reserved for him. So he walked to Yu Guang's side and sat on the second seat on the left side of the main seat. 3 minutes later, almost everyone had arrived. Just as everyone was waiting to see who would sit on the main seat, the door was suddenly pushed open. From outside the door, an extremely young and beautiful girl walked in. She casually glanced at everyone and naturally walked to the main seat and sat down. Chapter 1300. Her voice was casual and cold, but she was not afraid at all. "There are quite a lot of people here. On the other hand, the others were inexplicably frightened by Bei Yunja's glare. Bei Yunj had been sitting in the host's seat since her previous life. Naturally, she was used to it. However, the others instantly exploded. Who was this girl? What right did she have to sit in the host's seat? One had to know that Zhou Moping was sitting on the left. This is the agreement for all of you. Before the meeting, please sign it. Zhou Moping began to arrange for everyone to sign the agreement. Right then. When everyone received the agreement, they originally thought that it was a confidential matter that required everyone to sign the agreement. However, when they flipped to the first page, they were completely stunned. This was a familiar confidentiality requirement. In the country, there were very few who could receive such treatment. Especially in the scientific research field, true enough. Everyone scanned the last few lines of the agreement, subject of confidentiality agreement. Everyone's expression changed. They suddenly looked up at Bei Yunj. No one expected that, to be so young. However, at this moment, holding the agreement in his hands, Old He's expression was the worst. Old He slowly looked up at Bei Yunj. His mind was in a mess. He completely did not expect that Director Lin's granddaughter would be a mystery in the scientific research field. Why is YY here? Someone asked softly and excitedly. To them, such an existence was destined to write history and be a celebrity for eternity. Let everyone know that. I'm here today as Lin Longjuan's relative to participate in the public discussion of this seminar, Zhou Moping said slowly. However, as soon as she finished speaking, only 3 words appeared in everyone's mind. It's over. How could she be Lin Longjuan's relative? Gu Er, do you have anything to say to everyone? Zhou Moping turned and asked. Initially, Zhou Moping thought that Bei Yunj would at least give her some face and try peaceful means before resorting to force. However, when Bei Yunj heard this, she really glanced at the rest of the people present and snorted coldly. Everyone, you're very bold. The threat was blatant. Everyone's hearts, which were already uneasy, trembled even more. True enough. This big shot dared to say such harsh words in front of everyone. But at that time, no one would have thought that the granddaughter that Director Lin picked up for free would be. Zhou Moping's lips twitched. Did he want her to intimidate everyone present? However, Zhou Moping glanced at the group of people who had a look of fear on their faces and slowly said, I heard that during the seminar, all the staff members were agitated and said that they had to recommend Lin Longjun this time. Since that's the case, does anyone have a reason? After saying this, the arena fell into a dead silence. At this moment, the person sitting on the main seat felt flustered even when he breathed, not to mention the terrifying expression in his eyes that seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. It was numb. This time, he had stepped on a soft persimmon and accidentally stepped on a hard nail. Didn't you say that other than Lin Longjun, no one can save the people in northern K continent? Zhou Moping continued to ask. The members of the seminar were even more frightened. In fact, although Lin Longjun was suitable, according to convention, the person who should be recommended the most was He Jun. After all, in addition to being young and healthy, He Jun was also talented in biology and happened to have in-depth research in virology and infectious diseases. However, everyone was eager to see how President Ma had soared through the He family. Who would dare to offend the He family? Chapter 1301. If everyone has decided on this, then I think everyone can also decide on the candidates for the laboratory assistants. After that, Zhou Moping displayed the application information of the few laboratory assistants on the screen. Everyone's eyelids twitched when they saw that there was actually someone among the applicants. This person wanted to be a laboratory assistant for the project? If they really went to country R and went to the northern part of continent K with those researchers. If something happened, wouldn't they be done for? It's not suitable. How can you go? Someone suggested with a dark expression. Why? What do you mean? Bei Yunj looked up slowly and asked with a faint smile. No. That place is dangerous and backward. You're still young. How can you? His voice stopped abruptly. Everyone knew what he meant by his unfinished words. How could he send himself to his death? But the moment he said that, it was obvious why they wanted Lin Longjun to go to the northern part of Continent K. Wasn't this a slap to their faces? However, he had actually applied to accompany Lin Longjun abroad. This move had simply forced them into a corner. As long as they agreed to go, then if anything happened, none of them would be able to escape responsibility. Actually, although Director Lin is the most respected senior in the field of biology, there are still many talented juniors. There's no need for Director Lin to go personally. Not long after the awkwardness, someone immediately changed his mind. Yes, I agree too. Everyone chimed in. This made the smile in Zhou Moping's eyes disappear. His expression was indifferent. Is that so? Then do you have anyone else to recommend? As soon as he finished speaking, He felt the probing gazes around him and his expression changed. He was furious. What did this bunch of idiots mean? They knew that they couldn't afford to offend him, so they dared to send his grandson to his death. Mr. Hee-jun is indeed young and promising. It depends on Hee-jun's wishes. The person who spoke didn't dare to look at old Hee. And this feeling of holding in a bellyful of anger caused old Hee's face to darken even more. These wretches who changed their sails according to the wind and sucked up to those in power. Hee-jun is still young. He still needs experience. Bae Yunj raised her eyebrows. Why? Is your grandson still in high school? Old Hee's expression was ugly. He opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. The atmosphere became awkward. Speaking of age, no one was younger than the person sitting on the main seat. However, even so, when he was in high school, he already dared to reject Farisk and even beat up this racist boss on the spot, and the young grandson that old master he was talking about was already in his 30s. Compared to this, it was an eye-catching beating. Since there are still objections to the recommended candidates, why don't we leave this matter to everyone to discuss? Zhou Moping glanced at them and said calmly. Although he was furious when he found out about what had happened to Lin Longjun, he couldn't forget his bottom line as a researcher. Therefore, he wouldn't force the person from the He family to go if he wasn't willing. Hearing Zhou Moping's words, everyone finally heaved a sigh of relief, but the clothes on their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Fortunately, there was still a chance to remedy the situation. However, as soon as the meeting was over, the members received a bloody scolding from their leader. As for Bae Yunj, it was a different situation. Chapter 1302. Why? Miss Pei, this is your application form. The person in charge looked young. He handed the application form back to Bae Yunj and smiled carefully. It's our first time meeting. I'm the person in charge of the seminar, Hu Xian. I used to be Director Lin's student. Bae Yunj only glanced at him calmly, but the surrounding atmosphere was getting more and more oppressive. Even Zhou Moping could not help but cough lightly. Yunj. Bae Yunj played with her phone and did not even look up. What's the matter, Professor Zhou? Zhou Moping was speechless. Before Zhou Moping could speak, a caller ID suddenly appeared on Bae Yunj's phone. Zhou Moping glanced at it from the corner of his eye and saw that it was Lin Longjun. Just as expected. In the next moment, Bae Yunj, whose eyes were originally cold, answered the call and her tone was unbelievably gentle. Grandma, what's wrong? Can't I call you if there's nothing? Lin Longjun mumbled, but her tone was a little guilty. She secretly glanced at Bai Mingzhang, who was hinting at her with his eyes. However, Bae Yunj's eyes curved as she lowered her head and smiled patiently. Don't, Director Lin. Who provoked you? Are you venting your anger on me? When Zhou Moping and Hu Xian heard this completely different tone, their eyes were complicated and they could not help but be envious. Indeed, doing good deeds would be pitied by the heavens. After Director Lin left the laboratory, she had been helping thousands of children study and grow up for so many years. This granddaughter she casually picked up could become a big boss in the future. I heard from your grandpa that you're at the seminar. Lin Longjun asked. The smile on Bei Yunji's lips did not change, but she glanced at Zhou Moping and Hu Xian calmly. Hu Xian is a good student. He even helped our orphanage in the past. You're not allowed to lose your temper with anyone, understand? Lin Longjuan's gentle voice sounded from the phone. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. Okay. However, Zhou Moping and Hu Xian were still a little uneasy. They did not know if Lin Longjuan's call was useful. Would wild wolf cubs be obedient and listen to others? But after hanging up the phone, Hu Xian heard Bei Yunji's attitude soften a lot. She turned to look at him and said, Mr. Hu, Director Lin said that you should go to her place for tea when you're free. Hu Xian did not even dare to breathe loudly at first, but after hearing this, he was completely relieved. I haven't seen teacher for so long. In 2 days, I'll definitely serve tea to you. Hu Xian said immediately. Grandpa Zhou, Mr. Hu, since there's nothing else, I'll head back to school first. Bei Yunj glanced at her watch and did not continue to talk about what had just happened. After Bei Yunj left, Hu Xian heaved a sigh of relief. It's all right, Mississippi. Her temper isn't like what the rumors say. Zhou Moping chuckled. Don't look like it. He turned to look at Hu Xian and said, Little Hu, this is a great kindness. Other than Longjun, not many words can enter her ears. Yun University. As soon as Bei Yunj returned, she heard people talking about her. Occasionally, 1 or 2 passers-by would even glance at her. Yunj. Song Yao's voice trailed from not far away. Bei Yunj looked away and did not think about the reason for these people's strange gazes. Didn't you have a shoot today? Bei Yunj glanced at her watch. The shoot was delayed, so I wanted to prepare for this performance and the midterm exam. Song Yao could not help knocking her head. She also had a headache about the philosophy department's midterm exam. P.S. I'll go out for a meal first before I update. Don't wait, come and see me tomorrow morning. Chapter 1303. Who knew? Bei Yunj even made sarcastic remarks. Stop knocking. She's not smart to begin with. Song Yao pursed her lips and reached out to knock Bei Yunj's head. The two of them were fooling around and did not notice the subtle expressions of the passers-by. In the teachers' meeting room of Yun University. At this moment, a young-looking boy was the most out of place among the professors. In less than 30 minutes, the boy handed the paper to the professor. I'm done. The others were surprised. You're done. Yun University's admission test for transfer students had always been the so-called hell mode. Even the current students of Yun University might not be able to pass, therefore, it was extremely difficult to transfer to Yun University. When the boy heard this, he leaned back in his chair arrogantly, crossed his legs, and snorted. I heard that this paper is very difficult. But I think it's average. Your school's standards are really surprising. Hearing this, the professors did not look too good, but after one of them checked the paper, the accuracy rate was as high as 99%. He indeed had the right to be proud. Forget it. Since I've decided to come to Yun University, I won't mind the abilities of your students. Wang Guanchen adjusted his collar and did not even look at the professors. Since student Wang has passed our school's computer science exam, then, do you have a class you like? Our professors are all very responsible, and their professional abilities are unquestionable, the principal asked with a faint smile. Whatever. As long as it's less troublesome. After Wang Guanchen finished speaking, the other professors looked at each other. Actually, they were still willing to take Wang Guanchen in. After all, Wang Guanchen came from the Shi family in Continent K, which was a big family that controlled Laboratory 191. Although they heard that the next successor of Laboratory 191 seemed to be an unknown young man. Professor C, do you think there can be one more person in your class? After the principal spoke, Si Qingyan raised his eyebrows and glanced at Wang Guanchen, who had an arrogant expression on his face. Anything is fine, but I don't have time to be a nanny. After Si Qingyan finished speaking casually, the atmosphere suddenly froze. However, no one dared to point at Si Qingyan. After all, Si Qingyan was also a famous genius in the industry. He had become a computer science professor at Yun University at the age of 26. But when Wang Guanchen heard this, his face completely darkened. Not long after, he asked, "Are you Si Qingyan?" Before Wang Guanchen came, he had also heard of Si Qingyan's name. The official members of the Computing Institute probably knew the famous one. "Wang Guanchen, is something the matter?" Si Qingyan raised his eyebrows lazily. "You don't want to teach me?" Wang Guanchen asked with a sullen face. However, Si Qingyan smiled. "Student Wang, no one doesn't like talented students. However, talent should at least be proportional to a genius illness." After that, Si Qingyan suddenly stood up. "Principal, I'm going to look for our classmate Pei. I'll get going first." "Si Qingyan, what do you mean by this?" Wang Guanchen slammed the table and stood up, looking ferocious because of his anger. "Student Wang, Yun University doesn't lack geniuses." Si Qingyan sneered and left. Only Wang Guanchen was left with a gloomy face. What did Si Qingyan mean? How dare he look down on him? "Why don't you let me guide you, Student Wang?" One of the female professors took the initiative to say with a smile. Seeing that Wang Guanchen didn't object, the principal agreed. Suddenly, Wang Guanming asked, "Who is Student Pei?" Chapter 1304. Awkwardness appeared on everyone's faces, but no one said anything. "A student from the physics department." After the principal answered vaguely, he asked them to leave first. After leaving, the female professor standing beside Wang Guanchen sneered. "Student Wang, as the top scholar of this year's college entrance examination, Student Pei has received the favor of our leaders." With that said, she looked at Wang Guanchen and said with a smile, "However, what goes around comes around. Who knows how long she can be smug? The top scholar of the college entrance examination?" The corners of Wang Guanchen's lips twitched and he said disdainfully, "Every year, there will be a top scholar, but what's the use of a fool who only knows how to study?" Time passed quickly and the gala performance would be held in a few days. The score written by Bei Yunj was not simple, so in order not to drag Bei Yunj down, Song Ya would come to the performance hall to practice when she was free. "Student Wang, this is our Yun University's performance hall. Look." The person who spoke was the president of the student union, Hu Ji, who had confessed to Song Yao in public last time. However, at this moment, he was bending down to curry favor with Wang Guanchen. Wang Guanchen had only been here for a few days, but his name had already spread far and wide in Yun University. In the department, Wang Guanchen had provoked the most experienced and authoritative professor and crushed the computing department. As for the computer science department of Yunhua University, the news of a genius transfer student had already spread throughout the entire school. Wang Guanchen looked at Song Yao for a while and suddenly laughed. He said meaningfully, "The girls in your school are quite pretty." Hu Ji's expression froze, then he laughed coldly in a strange manner. "This is the belle of our philosophy department, Song Yao. Her relationship with this year's top scholar is really good." Wang Guanchen's tone turned cold. "That top scholar again?" Hu Ji said, "You know. I heard that the Computing Key Laboratory will prepare a spot for her this year. Why is someone from another department joining in the fun in the computing department's laboratory?" Wang Guanchen looked even more disgusted. Seeing that Wang Guanchen was unhappy, Hu Ji was overjoyed, but his expression did not change. "Yes, I heard that, this year, there's only one spot for the key laboratory." "What do you mean? Do you mean that I can't take this spot and directly decide it on someone from the physics department?" Wang Guanchen immediately asked with a dark face. Did these people know that he was a probationary member of Laboratory 191 of the Confederation of K, and compared to the freshmen here, the difference was like heaven and earth? That's hard to say. Who knows, there might be an increase in the quota. Hu Ji immediately comforted him. Wang Guanchen's tone became even more sarcastic. "I don't like sharing a lab with a nerd. as soon as he finished speaking. It was only then that the two of them realized that their conversation had been heard by Song Yao, who had stopped practicing on stage. Before Wang Guanchen could find a topic to talk to Song Yao, he heard a boy's voice not far away. Lu Yuanxi had a bag of snacks in each hand and a bag of baguettes in his mouth. He placed the baguettes on the table and said, "Yao Yao, your black coffee is here. Is Master Pei here yet?" "Not yet." After Song Yao walked down, Lu Yuanxi realized that there were two strangers around. "What's going on?" "Nothing." Song Yao picked up a cup of black coffee and said slowly, "Someone just wants to kick an iron plate." Instantly, Wang Guanchen's expression darkened. Lu Yuanxi raised his eyebrows and immediately understood who the iron plate Song Yao was talking about was. "Oh, someone dares to kick our Master Pei's ass." Chapter 1305. Lu Yuanxi raised his eyebrows slightly, looking like he was watching a show. How dare a physics student be so arrogant? Wang Guanchen glanced at Lu Yuanxi and Song Yunyao coldly before he turned and left. Seeing this, Lu Yuanxi took out a baguette and took a bite of it casually. "This is that transfer student, right? I heard that she's very capable and doesn't even like the professors in her department." After not hearing Song Yao's reply for a long time, he turned around and saw Song Yao looking at him. She said, "This is Yunja's." Lu Yuanxi was speechless. Then, in front of Song Yao, Lu Yuanxi finished the baguette one after another fiercely, demonstrating his strength fiercely. Song Yao was speechless. "Stop eating," Song Yao said softly, as if she was hinting at something. However, when Lu Yuanxi heard this, he wolfed down the food even more excitedly, not feeling like a handsome man at all. Until, suddenly, someone slapped his forehead from behind. Lu Yuanxi's face turned red from choking. He turned around and realized that it was the expressionless Bei Yunj. She laughed coldly. "Brother Lu, are you showing off to me?" Lu Yuanxi's back turned cold. F***ck. A few minutes later. "Have you heard? There's a transfer student in the computing department recently. Everyone says that she's a big boss with a high IQ." Lu Yuanxi rubbed his head and asked her with interest. Bei Yunj did not take off the silver-rimmed glasses she was wearing in the laboratory. She only bit the baguette and watched Song Yao practice the piano below the stage. "Not interested." "She's very interested in you. She just came to challenge you." Lu Yuanxi raised an eyebrow. Suddenly, Bei Yunj laughed and raised her eyebrows lazily. She asked slowly, "You call this a challenge?" "I've always called this behavior, giving away your head." Lu Yuanxi was speechless. He could not win against her. In the conference hall, Wang Guanchen had just entered when it stirred up quite a few heated discussions. "Brother Chen, you're a famous person in our computing department. Look at how enthusiastic the girls in our department are looking at you." The boy beside him looked smug and Wang Guanchen's eyes were filled with confidence. However, the second-year senior in the second row, who was touching up her makeup, rolled her eyes. Did these two people misunderstand the meaning of the word passion? After a while, Wang Guanchen glanced at the girls around him and frowned. There aren't many girls in our department who are good-looking. It was as if these girls were just ornamental objects to him. Those who can watch are all in the art department. After Wang Guanchen and the others finished their discussion, they sat down and realized that the person holding the meeting today was the elderly female professor who was at odds with Wang Guanchen the most. Wang Guanchen's face instantly darkened. He crossed his arms and sneered uncooperatively. "Old woman." In the entire computing department, other than Si Qingyan, this old-fashioned Professor Pan had the worst attitude towards him. Who doesn't know that Professor Pan is biased towards girls? It's as if the women in our computer science department can hold up half the sky. The boys crossed their arms and laughed. On the stage, Professor Pan Yenlu pushed up his glasses. "Is everyone here?" The audience was noisy, but no one answered the question. There were even some boys who deliberately chatted loudly. Until the next moment. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. In the blink of an eye, the crowd saw a beautiful and flamboyant girl. "Professor Pan, do you mind having another auditing student? I won't come empty-handed." Bei Yunj tilted her head and shook the bouquet of roses in her hand. Her lips curled up casually. Instantly, the girls present were in an uproar and almost screamed in excitement. She was too flirtatious. Chapter 1306. Ah, Bei Yunj is amazing. Not only is she pretty, but she's also flirtatious and polite. What kind of ideal is this? The girls couldn't help but discuss excitedly. It turned out that girls loved to look at pretty girls more than anyone else. Especially someone like Bei Yunj, who had bright and beautiful eyebrows and a lazy aura. She was a classic example of both men and women. At this moment, the senior sitting in the front row deliberately used a loud voice and deliberately dragged out a laugh. This is the enthusiasm of the masses. In an instant, Wang Guanchen's face darkened as if he had been ridiculed. He could indeed feel the enthusiasm of the crowd as soon as this person walked in. It was so high that it made his scalp tingle. Even the stern Professor Pan couldn't hide the smile at the corners of his mouth. Bei Yunj? Wang Guanchen couldn't believe it. This is a girl. He had always thought that the top scorer of the college entrance examination would be a nerd with glasses as thick as the bottom of a beer bottle. However, he didn't expect that the Bei Yunj who walked in front of him was completely different from what he had expected. Her eyes were beautiful and bright, but her every move was unruly, making people afraid to approach her. However, she also had the perfect amount of politeness and elegance. Even among her peers, there was no one with this kind of aura. "You're here every day, but I don't see you changing departments. Hurry up and find a seat." Professor Pan snorted coldly. He didn't seem to like Bei Yunj, but he hugged the roses that Bei Yunj had given him and smiled even more deeply. Lin Longjun and Professor Pan had always had a good relationship, so Bei Yunj would occasionally come to Professor Pan's classes. "Is your professor always like this? When he asked me to help out in the laboratory last week, I thought it would be another touching teacher-student relationship. It's so sad." Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and dragged out the end of her words lazily as she sighed and asked the senior student sitting in the front row. When the girls around her heard this, they were originally nervous because of Professor Pan's meeting, but they immediately relaxed. No one would have thought that the most outrageous rumor from before seemed to be true. This top scorer's father, who couldn't even write down a single record of any disciplinary violations or fights, was surprisingly well-mannered and cultured in a certain way. No wonder Bei Yunj had been stuffed with love letters by both men and women when she was in high school. After being glared at by Professor Pan, Bei Yunj, who was sitting in the first row, was still the center of attention. Sitting in the middle, Wang Guanchen could hear a lot of discussion. His face was getting darker and darker. It's not uncommon to see top students in Yun University, but what is a top student like him if he's not the Gu King? Don't you think that when Master Pei sits there, his aura is even more flirtatious than a guy's? Help! Look at Master Pei. He's making our senior Belle blush so much. As soon as they looked up, they saw the prettiest girl in their department talking about something. The girl next to her, who had her arms crossed lazily, suddenly leaned over and listened patiently. From the senior's point of view, she saw Bei Yunj curl her lips and murmur in a low voice. In an instant, the senior's ears turned red. Wang Guanchen's expression became even uglier. He never thought that the attention that had been on him would be snatched away by a girl. This time, the department plans to cooperate with the other 8 universities in Beichuan for the competition. If you want to participate, you can sign up with me. After Professor Pan finished speaking, he heard the sound of the boys playing games below the stage. He couldn't help but purse his lips. Chapter 1307. The others couldn't help but frown when they saw that there were boys in the department who didn't give Professor Pan face. The boys in the department had always thought that Professor Pan was biased towards girls, but in fact, Professor Pan was never biased towards boys. From elementary school to high school, most teachers would focus on boys. They thought that boys matured later but had more potential than girls. However, they forgot that most of the top students in the class were girls. Even the highest scorer in the computer science college entrance exam was a girl. Professor Pan had been teaching for decades and had witnessed the growth of 2 generations. He also loved to passionately talk about how girls should be independent and have freedom of thought in class. However, Professor Pan's educational philosophy remained the same until this year's faculty quiz. Because the top 4 were all girls, it caused many male students to explode with anger. They thought that Professor Pan was biased towards girls and didn't care about the results of the boys. Therefore, when Wang Guanchen transferred to the department, most of the boys naturally sided with Wang Guanchen. They were looking forward to Wang Guanchen torturing this conservative female professor and letting everyone know that the best in the department were the boys. If you don't want to listen or don't want to participate in the competition, you can leave. Professor Pan held the mouse and said calmly without looking up. Hearing this, Wang Guanchen sneered, then straightened up and suddenly started to operate the computer in the back row. A few minutes later, the computer screen on the stage suddenly turned blue and even the slides went black. Professor Pan was stunned and quickly tried to restore the computer program. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do it. The boys in the back row saw Professor Pan on the stage like a headless fly and they all laughed as if they had vented their anger. Professor Pan, we're still waiting for you to speak. Yeah, Professor, don't waste everyone's time. After saying this, there were also some boys who couldn't stand it but didn't want to have any interaction with this group of people. As for Wang Guanchen, he looked at his masterpiece on the stage and crossed his arms. He raised the corner of his mouth and looked down at this scene condescendingly. No one had ever been able to restore the system that he had broken. Suddenly, before anyone could react, someone in the front row asked leisurely, Professor Pan, why don't you use my computer to continue? After Professor Pan came back to his senses, he handed his USB drive to Bei Yunj and said worriedly, this computer seems to have been infected by a virus. If you use my USB drive, will your computer also? No. Bei Yunj took the USB flash drive and inserted it without any hesitation. Seeing this, Wang Guanchen's lips curled into a sneer. From the looks of it, this top scorer from the physics department was also brainless. Professor Pan's USB drive carried a virus. Once it was connected to another computer, the system would immediately crash. Wang Guanchen had a look of understanding on his face as he waited for Bei Yunj to make a fool of herself in the front row. However, he did not expect that after 1 or 2 minutes, he would discover that there was nothing wrong with Bei Yunj's computer. How could this be? His face darkened as he continued to operate the keyboard. He planned to hack into Bei Yunj's computer again. However, when Wang Guanchen was attacking Bei Yunj's system, he did not realize that Bei Yunj was aware of his actions. Bei Yunj, you seem to have been infected by a virus. The face of the department belle changed. Wang Guanchen, who was sitting in the back seat, pursed his lips. However, before he could laugh, he heard Bei Yunj chuckle softly. She smirked and said unhurriedly, is that so? Not bad, there are still people who like to court death in my hands. Chapter 1308. Before the others could react, Bei Yunj's fingers moved across the keyboard at lightning speed. However, her expression was still cold and indifferent. At the same time, the screen of Wang Guanchen's computer in the back row suddenly turned blue. Wang Guanchen's heart skipped a beat. Before he could come back to his senses and try to salvage the situation, the startup sound from the computer suddenly became louder. Immediately after, the internal components of the computer seemed to be unable to withstand the high-voltage drive. In less than 30 seconds, it directly collapsed and turned black. Wang Guanchen was not the only one who was shocked. Everyone was shocked by the sound and could not react for a long time. Crap, what's happening? Someone asked. Whose computer exploded? It can't be. Is there such a trashy computer in this day and age? Which brand is it? Let me see. It seems to be Wang Guanshan's computer. Everyone's discussion stopped. After hearing this, Wang Guanshan's face turned extremely black. He subconsciously tightened his grip on the mouse and his knuckles turned white. Just now, someone had hacked into his system. Wang Guanshan looked up and happened to meet Bei Yunji's casual gaze. He saw the other party snort softly and then turn around. It was very obvious, this person did not take him seriously at all. After a moment of panic, Wang Guanshan felt an extreme sense of humiliation. However, was the person who had just counterattacked his system really Bei Yunji? Wasn't she a physics student? How could she do this? Even the top computer experts of Confederation 191 could not directly disable a computer in a few minutes. Furthermore, this was a top-notch computer that he had specially customized. Wang Guanshan felt as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat and his entire body stiffened. This was because he did not even know when the other party had hacked into his computer. However, not only did the other party counterattack his system, but she also directly disabled his computer. Not long after, a few of the boys who were still playing games suddenly felt their internet connection lag, and immediately went offline. Crap! The school's network exploded. The boys widened their eyes. What's happening? My data is also lagging. Soon after, the boys who were playing games realized that no matter how they tried, they could not log into the game. They were so angry that their faces turned green. Professor Pan, you can start now. Bei Yunji placed the computer on the podium and passed the mouse to Professor Pan. Wang Guanshan's strongest feeling was, Bei Yunji was the reason why these people were suddenly disconnected from the game. Crazy? How is that possible? Wang Guanshan muttered to himself, denying his own thoughts. Impossible. That was impossible. How could this be done by a woman? However, the computer that had been burned internally was placed in front of him at this moment. He had no choice but to face this fact with his scalp numb. Bei Yunji from the physics department was definitely not a pushover. After the meeting, Wang Guanshan passed by Bei Yunji with his broken computer. He unconsciously tightened his grip on the laptop. Just when he thought that Bei Yunji would not speak, he heard Bei Yunji ask casually, "I heard that you have a problem with me." This was the first time that Wang Guanshan had been in such close contact with Bei Yunji. He could even see the coldness in her eyes and the pressure she was giving off. Before he could say anything, Bei Yunji reached out and patted the laptop he was holding. Her lips curled into a playful smile. "You can look for me. If you drag anyone else into this, it won't be the computer that will be disabled." Wang Guanshan suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He knew that Bei Yunji was talking about him messing with Professor Pan. Chapter 1309. Wang Guanshan felt a chill run down his spine when Bei Yunji stared at him with a faint smile. She really did it. After Bei Yunji left, Wang Guanshan finally came to his senses. Then, he immediately made an international call. The other party picked up. "Why are you calling me at this time?" Wang Huiying said impatiently. Wang Guanshan's expression was ugly, but he asked almost urgently, "Sister, do you know anyone from Yuncheng?" He didn't believe that there was someone more powerful than Confederation 191 in Yuncheng University. "Nonsense, how could I?" Halfway through her sentence, Wang Huiying seemed to have remembered something bad, and her face turned livid. "What's wrong? What happened to you?" Wang Guanshan gritted his teeth, his eyes full of unwillingness. "Nothing happened. I'm enrolled in Yuncheng University, but I'm afraid of offending someone I shouldn't." Wang Huiying laughed out loud and said expressionlessly, "You're a probationary member of Confederation 191. Are you afraid of a group of inexperienced students?" She changed the topic. Wang Huiying gritted her teeth. "However, I should remind you that there is indeed someone you can't afford to offend in Yuncheng. It's very likely that she's in the same school and major as you." "The same major?" Wang Guanshan frowned unconsciously. "Shouldn't she be, in the physics department?" "Half a year ago, someone from Yuncheng participated in our Confederation 191's training camp, and she won first place." Wang Huiying's eyes were gloomy, and her voice was as cold as ice. She took a deep breath. I've asked my friend. She's developing in the computer field in Yuncheng. She won first place in Confederation 191. Wang Guanchen asked in disbelief, and then he remembered the previous rumor. At the beginning of this year, a very young girl from country A came. She was a dark horse from training camp 191, and she crushed Wang Huiying to the ground. So this person who even crushed a top genius like Wang Huiying was actually from Yuncheng? But he couldn't figure it out. Since she had this ability, why did she continue to study in university? Wouldn't she grow faster if she went directly to the laboratory and was fed top resources by the capital or the country? Wang Guanchen hesitated for a moment, but quickly dismissed the idea that Bai Yunj was the person Wang Huiying was talking about. Bai Yunj could beat Wang Huiying? What a joke! Bai Yunj was several years younger than Wang Huiying. What's wrong? As a member of the Wang family, you can't even compare to a student of Yun University? Wang Huiying's tone was sarcastic. Wang Guanchen clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. She's just a physics student. I don't know where she learned this unorthodox method. She hacked my computer. Trash, you're a disgrace to me. Wang Huiying coldly rebuked. Wang Guanchen did not dare to refute her. Wang Huiying doesn't know what she has done to the people in Yuncheng. She suppresses her anger and says, I have a seminar in Yuncheng in a few days. I want to see with my own eyes how you earn back the Wang family's dignity. Do you understand? Wang Guanchen's expression instantly brightened and he became excited. I understand, sister. As long as Wang Huiying came, no matter how arrogant that person from the physics department was, he could only be trampled on. After hanging up the phone, Wang Guanchen looked at the computer and sneered. He threw it into the trash can. The gala at Yun University was 2 days away. She didn't know where Jasmine got the news, but Bai Yunj suddenly received all kinds of dresses, accessories, and daily clothes from Jasmine's father. Chapter 13:10. Bai Yunj had always been resistant to receiving gifts from her parents, but if she returned it, Jasmine would probably start to be sensitive and sad again. Therefore, Bai Yunj could only give Higgins some shares in return. Jasmine's father was shocked and thought that Bai Yunj wanted to buy their family business. Even the mild-tempered Shang Yan almost lost his composure when he found out that Bai Yunj had casually given him shares. There was no one else who was more prodigal than this person. In the rehearsal hall. Is this a Gus gown? Song Yao froze. Gus was the #1 fashion company in our nation, and the price of their gowns was famous for their sky-high prices. An ordinary custom-made gown cost at least 200,000 yuan, while high-end custom-made gowns cost millions. Bai Yunj glanced at the gown on the table, but even Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing picked up their suits instinctively when they heard Gus. They did not dare to let the dust on the table get on the clothes. No way, Master Pei. You're borrowing Gus for a school party. Lu Yuanxi was in disbelief. I didn't borrow it. Bai Yunj frowned. At the thought of Jasmine's family sending her clothes and accessories every month as if they were going bankrupt, she felt a little impatient. You bought it? Chu Zhixing was also shocked. Master Pei, this gown costs at least 200,000 yuan. Only Song Yao felt that something was wrong with the gown in her hand. She had seen Yu Manran borrow Gus's high-end custom-made gown before. The fabric and craftsmanship were amazing. It was said that a high-end custom-made gown required 700 hours of embroidery alone, so it was not unreasonable for the gown to be so expensive. However, the gowns Bai Yunj placed here were not inferior to Yu Manran's high-end custom-made gown at all. In fact, the craftsmanship was even more complicated and exquisite. Yunj, are these high-end custom-made gowns? Song Yao asked. Are you kidding me? Master Pei, you can't waste money like this even if you're rich. Gus's high-end custom-made gown costs at least 7 million yuan. Lu Yuanxi's scalp turned numb. Although their Lu family was rich, other than important occasions, the women in the family would not burn money to wear Gus's high-end custom-made gowns. Besides, Gus's high-end custom-made gowns were only available to top members. Most people had a price but no supply. But, Song Yao wanted to say something but hesitated. Is it really not? Even though she had never seen these two pieces of jewelry in the show before. You don't like it? Bei Yunj put her phone back in her pocket. No. Song shook her head immediately. This gown was the most beautiful gown that she had worn before. Master Pei, I can't afford to return this gift of yours. Lu Yuanxi wondered if he should get Pei Yunj to go to his company to choose a suite. Pei Yunj laughed lazily. I won't say much. A father's love is silent. Speechless was speechless, in the venue. The Bei Yunj's, WTO wear, dress. Where to, I've seen this dress before. It's worth more than 100,000 yuan. The girls were extremely excited. Qin Youjiao glanced at Qing Zihuai, who was not far away, and said to them with a smile, it's good that you don't mind. Apart from the dancers, Qin Youjiao and Yu Ling had prepared their own gowns. Qin Youjiao had spent more than 1 million yuan to prepare a custom-made WTO gown, while Yu Ling had a Gus gown that cost more than 500,000 yuan. It seems like Miss Qin is planning to outshine everyone. Yu Ling could not hide her jealousy towards Qin Youjiao. Even though Qin Youjiao had left the Qin family, she could still buy a gown that cost more than 1 million yuan. And this gown of hers was given to her by Fu Yan for free. Chapter 1311. Elder young miss was the elder young miss after all. She was different from an ordinary commoner like her. Yu Ling adjusted the frozen expression on her face and made up her mind to get Fu Yan buy back. How can that be? This gown isn't that expensive. A dark look flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes as she said with a smile. Originally, Qin Youjiao had planned to spend a lot of money to buy a custom-made high-end brand that she often used to steal the limelight. In the end, because she was chased out of the Qin family, 4 big brands cancelled her membership and she could only wear WQ's custom-made gown now. Fortunately, WQ had developed well in the past few years. She heard that they were applying for advanced custom-made gowns and certification by the union, so it was not considered bad. A gown that's close to 1 million yuan is almost comparable to a custom-made gown. Youjiao, you're too humble. Yu Ling said with a smile, her eyes filled with mockery. Some people won't spend so much money to buy a gown, such as Song Yao, who still has to repay her debts. After the Song Corporation went bankrupt, Mrs. Song had been making up for the Song Corporation's debts. Later, even when Song Yao entered the entertainment industry, all the money she earned was used to repay her debts. 1 million yuan gown. How could Song Yao have the right to dream about it? At this thought, Yu Ling's jealous and gloomy mood calmed down. It was not that no one was in a worse state than her. Yu Ling smirked. The gala was about to start and the students below the stage were also excited. Because this year's Yun University Gala was more exciting than before. After all, not only was there Qin Youjiao from the International Musicians Association among the freshmen this year, there was also Song Yao, a popular starlet. It was very exciting. Without anyone noticing, 2 more people appeared in the front row. Will Gu see me sitting so close? Lin Lanjun was dressed tightly, but there was a hint of a smile in her voice. Beside her, Professor Pan pouted. You used to be the head of a branch of Yun University. Why are you still hiding when you're entering the school? I don't want to affect Gu. Professor Pan's tone was envious. You're the luckiest in our generation to have such a beautiful and smart granddaughter. I think she'll be able to bring glory to the country in the future. Lin Lanjun was silent for a moment. I'd rather she be more ordinary and not have to work so hard and bear so much pressure. You don't know how lucky you are. Lin Lanjun shook her head and chuckled. Soon, the performance. Yun University's performances were all very unique, especially the performances brought by the art branch. It was refreshing. Half an hour later, everyone was looking forward to the last few performances with great interest. Qin Youjiao and Yu Ling were the finale. Even though they had already performed more than 10 acts before, when Qin Youjiao and the rest appeared, the audience still cheered loudly. So beautiful. Why are they all dressed like princesses? Are you stupid? Qin Youjiao was wearing a custom-made gown from WQ, and the price was almost as expensive as a high-end gown. Yu Ling's Gus didn't seem to be a seasonal gown, but the cheapest Gus was at least 200,000 yuan. F***CK, these two are here to suppress everyone. Don't talk about it anymore. I just checked. The dancers' dresses cost more than 100,000 yuan. Miss Qin is still the center of attention. Seeing that her limelight had been completely stolen by Qin Youjiao, Yu Ling's expression did not look too good, but she could only force a smile. At this time, the person in charge of Qin Youjiao's stage play reluctantly went backstage to remind Bei Yunji's team to get ready for the stage. When he looked up and saw the three of them after changing, he was almost stunned on the spot. Were they acting out a sniper team from the aristocratic era of the last century? Chapter 1312. Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi were wearing black suits that accentuated their figures. One was cold and noble, while the other was elegant and modest. On the other hand, Song Yao, who was clutching her chest awkwardly, was wearing a light grayish-blue waist-length dress. The fluffy hem of the dress hung down with textured folds, and the golden blue scales and gems and pearls made this dress look elegant and dreamy. The person in charge blushed inexplicably and started to stutter. Why, you're up next. You can get ready. Where's Bei Yunji? Here. Bei Yunji's lazy voice sounded as her slender fingers gently lifted the champagne-colored curtain. What entered her eyes was, the girl was wearing a red satin high-slit gown. Her aura was languid and seductive. Her skin was cold and fair and her black hair was casually tied up. There were a few strands of hair loosened by her ears and hung by her slender neck. This waistline and long legs were simply a sculpture with a golden ratio. The boys held their breaths and stood rooted to the ground in a daze. Okay, I got it. Bei Yunji walked over. As the high slit of her dress swayed, her snow-white long legs made people's hearts race. The boys looked away instinctively and coughed. They did not dare to look at Bei Yunji anymore. Of course, they knew that Bei Yunji was good-looking and could not even ignore the charm in her eyes. However, that was because she was reserved and under her sharpness. However, once she became serious, no one would survive this visual feast. Let's wait outside. Lu Yuanxi grabbed one in each hand and dragged the other two out. Song Yao could not help but feel nervous when Bei Yunji stared at her with a faint smile. Yunji, if you look at me like this, I'll be nervous on stage. This gaze that could kill both men and women should not be smiling and flirting with people like this. Bei Yunji was speechless. Soon. Bei Yunji was outside the door, wandering in an empty corridor. However, she did not expect someone to suddenly grab her wrist and pull her to another corner. Bei Yunji's eyes had just turned cold when she suddenly smelled a cold and familiar scent on the other party. She leaned against the wall and smiled. It's cold, brother. Only then did the man realize that Bei Yunji was wearing a red dress with a hollow back. He didn't have time to bring the girl to his side. Suddenly, Bei Yunji pushed him against the wall and pinned him down. Did anyone see you when you came? Bei Yunji's question sounded as if they were having an affair, which made the man, who felt that he was being pressed down, raise his eyebrows. But in fact, Bei Yunji knew very well that this man's looks would attract a lot of attention once he entered the school. What's wrong? Can't I show my face? The man casually leaned against the wall and sneered. His warm and cool fingertips were caressing her smooth back in the midst of chaos. Bei Yunji couldn't help but shudder. No. Bei Yunji forced herself to calm down. When the man saw the girl's expressionless face, he felt that the girl was not as clingy as before. A short while later, Bei Yunji heard the man ponder for a moment before he said leisurely, she likes the new and hates the old. That's pretty good. Without waiting for Bei Yunji to explain, the man suddenly bent down, wrapped his arm around the girl's slender waist, and leaned closer, Huashida's low and sexy voice burned her ears. Yunyun, did I serve you for nothing? Huashidu, this is school. Bei Yunj was not intimidated by this sentence. Just as expected. The moment she looked up, she saw the man leaning against the wall lazily, staring straight at her. Chapter 1313. A few seconds later. Bei Yunj reached out and tugged at the hem of the man's suit jacket. Restrain yourself a little. When the man heard this, he laughed softly, as if he was asking her seriously, but even his peach blossom eyes were seductive. Yunyun, how should I restrain myself? Bei Yunj almost couldn't hold it in when she was stared at by such a fixed gaze. After coming back to her senses, she said, we're in public. Be careful. The man leaned lazily against the wall and raised his eyebrows slightly. Soon, his slender and well-defined fingers casually unbuttoned his suit jacket. It was clearly an extremely ordinary action, but the man made her blush and her heart race. Coupled with his bewitching gaze, he was simply lustful. He opened his arms towards Bei Yunj and curled his lips lightly, looking as if he was at her mercy. Then, Yunyun, do you want to hug me? Bei Yunj was extremely bewitched by the man's fixed gaze. Just as she reached out her hand unconsciously, she suddenly heard other voices around her. However, before Bei Yunj could retract her hand, the man suddenly grabbed her wrist and pulled her into his arms. Bei Yunj froze for a few seconds. She slowly turned her head and saw the person in charge looking at Bei Yunj in horror as she pinned the man whose face could not be seen clearly against the corner of the wall. However, surprisingly, the person who was being pinned down seemed to be in a good mood. The man seemed to be whispering to Bei Yunj with a smile, Yunyun, be gentle with me. I didn't see anything. The person in charge felt that he had seen something he shouldn't have. Bei Yunj, Tsing-su saw that when the man came out, even his white shirt was wrinkled and there seemed to be a faint lipstick mark on his chest. The man's posture was casual, but he gave off the vibe of a refined scum. He looked as if he had just come out after doing something that made his face blush and his heart race. Master Du, where did your tie go? After Tsing-su asked, the man glanced at him coldly and he suddenly sobered up. He wanted to strangle himself to death. Other than Miss Pei, who else had the ability to take away Master Du's tie? On the stage. Yu Ling's stage play coupled with Song Yao's cello made the audience intoxicated. They were even more obsessed with the beauty of the artistic girl on stage. As expected of a place where beauties gathered. The moment Qin Yojiao came out, there was already a situation where she was the center of attention. At this moment, someone had taken a video of Qin Yojiao, who was as beautiful as a fairy, instantly became popular online. Hashtag Qin Yojiao Yun performance hashtag Qin Yojiao cello hashtag these two terms also slowly became trending. However, if a discerning person observed carefully, they would realize that the trending topic this time had been premeditated for a long time. Dozens of marketing accounts had entries almost at the same time, and even included Qin Yu's name, mocking the Qin family's real young lady for not having any artistic cells. 666, is this a game for the rich? The dancers are wearing WQ's dress. Oh my god. Even the big shots in Yun City wouldn't casually buy a gown that costs millions, right? After all, the gown is only worn once. My Jiaoye is too pretty. She's really a princess on the run. A gown costs millions. Even if she's not the Qin family's biological daughter, a princess is a princess. A pheasant isn't worthy of carrying the princess's shoes, dog head, at the same time. Qin Yojiao's performance had already ended. The enthusiastic reaction below the stage made the corners of her lips curl up, knowing that she had already won. Chapter 1314. After leaving the stage, Qin Yojiao was surrounded by everyone. Yojiao, so you prepared such a big surprise. This dress is too beautiful. The song is also nice. It's actually an original. No wonder she's a member of the International Musicians Association. Everyone's eyes landed on Qin Yojiao. Behind her, Yu Ling's smile was a little stiff and her expression was dark. Even when Song Yao was still the elder young miss of the Song family, she had never been ignored like this. I'm just throwing a brick to attract Jade. Yunji's performance next should be more worth looking forward to. Qin Yojiao said casually, but a cold glint flashed past her eyes. I heard that they also arranged their own songs. They should be very good too. Yojiao is too humble. It's impossible for her to compare to you. You're the only member of the International Musicians Association in the country. The people below the stage fought to please Qin Yojiao. After all, it could be seen from this gown that even without the Qin family, Qin Yojiao was someone who lived in flowers and applause. Qin Yojiao sat in the first row and turned on her phone. She scrolled to her trending topic and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. This time, no matter what Bei Yunj wanted to use to fight with her, she would trample it into the ground and never be able to raise her head. It might even become the shame of her life. At this thought, Qin Yojiao glanced at the people who were recording behind and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Soon, Cheng Zihuai walked over and took off his suit jacket gentlemanly, draping it over Qin Yojiao. It also caused a commotion below the stage. Not long after, the last program started and the spotlight dimmed. Song Yao and the rest were ready to go on stage. Was Master Pei captured by aliens? Why isn't she here yet? Lu Yuanxi tugged at his tie in frustration, seeing that Bei Yunj was still not here. You guys go first. Song Yao was about to ask Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing to go first. Fortunately, the person they were looking for appeared in the next moment. I'm here. However, when Pei Yunj appeared, the few of them glanced at her situation and their eyelids twitched. Master Pei, I understand that you're young and impetuous, but you should take care of your body, right? He looked over. Bei Yunj's black hair, which had been neatly tied up, was now in a mess. Her lipstick had also been smeared across the side of her face. Her gaze was cold, but the corners of her eyes were still slightly red. At the mention of this, Bei Yunj really wanted to lock up a certain shameless man in a men's college. In the long corridor backstage, Bei Yunj had originally thought that Huashidu would more or less feel a little apologetic after doing something disgraceful, so she had no qualms about messing with him. She pulled the man's tie and wrinkled his neatly ironed white shirt. He wouldn't let himself be at a disadvantage. Unexpectedly, just as Bei Yunj finished tugging at the man's tie, she heard Huashidu suddenly laugh softly. The next moment, she was pressed against the wall by him. She even said that what she did was not bullying. He was teaching her how to bully him next time. Hence, Pei Yunj proudly tied her hands with the tie she had pulled off herself and placed it behind her back. She had no choice but to listen to this dog of a man whispering lewd words in her ear. Until she could not drag it on any longer. Bei Yunj could only numbly say a lot of things that dog of a man liked to hear. She even agreed to Huashidu's crazy request. Only then did she manage to escape. Why are you still holding the tie? After asking, the three of them looked at Bei Yunj's hand. There were still red marks on her slender and fair forearm. Bei Yunj was speechless. Huashidu, you're gone. Chapter 13-15. Bei Yunj casually wrapped his tie and threw it to the person in charge. Before he left, he added, keep it for me. 2 minutes later. Under the suggestion, they hurriedly changed their makeup. Everyone saw the spotlight turn on and Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing, who were dressed in suits and leather shoes, suddenly appeared on stage. One was holding a violin and the other was holding a saxophone. Chu Zhixing is so handsome. Our medical faculty is so promising. Brother Lu is indeed the top male couple of our top scholar. Help, I'll always love handsome guys in battle. Chu Zhixing pursed his lips. He was not used to this kind of popularity and could only glance coldly at Lu Yuanxi, who insisted on pulling him along to perform. Very quickly, everyone saw the lights on the stage turn on again. On the left was the elegant and cold Song Yao, who was wearing a grayish-blue chiffon dress. On the right, the person who was helping Song Yao walk up the stage had a very different aura. Bei Yunj's burgundy gown was full of aura. Her eyes were lazy and bright, especially the lipstick mark on her cheek that seemed to have been purged, and her eyes that were always slightly upturned, making her look extremely bewitching. Is this also a battle makeup? Master Pei is breaking the rules. Someone could not help but say after regaining their senses. The rest of the people in the battle makeup looked cold and fragile. Only her raised eyebrows were very seductive, as if she was trying to steal their souls. This visual feast was so intense that no one in the audience survived. Am I watching the aristocratic banquet of the last century? Song Yao's identity can't be hidden anymore. Family members, 3 of them are injured in battle and 1 is a princess. What does this mean? F***CK. I've hit it again. Being injured in battle for the princess is my belief. Who doesn't say that Guyao is real when they see this? The couple fans danced crazily. However, Lin Lanjun, who was in front, felt that something was wrong. What was real? With the commotion below the stage, Bei Yunj and Song Yao looked at each other and the piano suddenly sounded. Guyao's forehand duet is too amazing. Oh my god. This group of sharks is crazy, sharks are crazy. In fact, the audience below the stage did not focus on Bei Yunja's group this time. After all, this was usually the home ground of the art faculty. Therefore, from the moment Bei Yunja's group of 4 appeared on the stage to the beginning of their performance, all of them were stunning. Especially Bei Yunja's arrangement. Even if she didn't know much about music, she could tell that it was on a different level from Qin Youjiao's arrangement, front row. Qin Youjiao, come with me for a while. The music professor glanced at the 4 people on the stage with an unpleasant expression before looking at Qin Youjiao. A dark look flashed across Qin Youjiao's eyes before she smiled at Qing Zihuai. Zihuai, I'll look for you later. All right. After Qing Zihuai nodded, Qin Youjiao walked out. The moment she reached the corridor, she heard the professor's question. How dare they use this song? The professor's face was livid. When has Yun University's public activities not attracted the attention of the media? Are they trying to drag Yun University down with them? Teacher, I've already told Yunj that it's best if she doesn't use other people's things. Qin Youjiao bit her lip. At the thought of the commotion Bei Yunj caused below the stage just now, she was also depressed. If you're caught stealing music scores, you'll definitely be punished and even expelled. The professor took a deep breath, but when Qin Youjiao heard this, the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Chapter 13-16. Teacher, I don't know what to do either. Qin Youjiao lowered her head, her eyes red as if she had suffered a lot of grievances. Seeing this, the professor remembered that Qin Youjiao had already left the Qin family and that the Qin family doted on that new elder young miss terribly. How could Qin Youjiao persuade that person? It's not your fault. It's not your fault anyway. She has to bear her own fault, the professor said coldly. He then said, okay, go back early. I'll tell the principal about this and let him prepare in advance. Okay. Qin Youjiao hummed in response. After watching the professor leave, the smile on her lips deepened. This time, she wanted to see how Bei Yunj would turn the tables around. Qin Youjiao returned to the front row. At this moment, all the performances had ended, but the enthusiasm below the stage had already explained everything. Bei Yunja's group's limelight overshadowed everyone else. Qin Youjiao, didn't you say that you had a way? In the end, you still want to see Song Yao and the rest act arrogantly in front of me? Yu Ling could not help gritting her teeth and asking. Why are you in such a hurry? Qin Youjiao frowned, not understanding what that person from the Fu family liked about Yu Ling. An idiot who was nothing but her face. Suddenly, a voice from behind interrupted them. Oh my god, Bei Yunja's group is too strong. My friends from the music department are all playing their group's recording crazily. They say that it's an original work by a god and they beat Qin Youjiao's group. Qin Youjiao's expression darkened immediately. Sigh, you can't say that. One is in art while the other is in style. Isn't it quite good? Hearing this, everyone could not ignore Qin Youjiao's $1,000,000 gown. Why do I feel that Song Yao's group's gown is not worse than Qin Youjiao's group? Someone scratched his head. Everyone's discussion gradually disappeared. It was not until the end of the speech that the crowd suddenly started discussing again, as if something strange was spreading. 10 minutes later. Song Yao was removing her makeup backstage when she suddenly received a call from her manager. "Sister, why are you calling me so late?" Song Yao's voice was gentle, but the other party was extremely irritable. "Why aren't you anxious at all? Do you know that the domestic fashion industry is about to ban you? 2 second-tier magazines even rejected your shoot." Song Yao frowned. "What happened? You performed at school today. Where did the clothes come from?" Song Yao could roughly guess what had happened and only said, "A friend gave it to me." "What kind of mess is that, sister?" Song Yao's voice was cold and the manager knew that Song Yao was really angry. However, the manager was about to go crazy. Okay, I didn't choose my words carefully. But today, it's obvious that someone wants to mess with you. The article says that you're wearing a fake Gus outfit. Now, you're on the hot search list. You know, Gus is the ceiling of the industry. Other brands will make an example of you. If you don't handle it well, you'll be frozen out of the fashion industry. Song Yao's brows twitched. "I understand. I'll do as I see fit." "Do as you see fit?" "If it was before, I could ask you if you could ask Miss Pei for help. Now, she can't even protect herself, how can she still have the time to help you?" "What do you mean? What do you mean you can't even protect yourself?" Song Yao's tone suddenly changed. The manager was speechless. He wasn't worried about his own matters, but he was worried about others. What kind of sin did she commit to have such a Buddhist artist? "You don't know." Fang Shiyun forwarded Bei Yunja's performance video and pointed out that she plagiarized her work. Chapter 13-17. Fang Shiyun. Song Yao furrowed her eyebrows. "I'll go take a look." After that, Song Yao hung up and scrolled through Fang Shiyun's social media account. Fang Shiyun v. For the sake of brother Yu, I didn't want to say it, but young lady, aren't you being too brazen? Kissing You on a Rainy Day is an original song that I wrote in 3 months. This is the passion of an original writer. Campus skinning, everyone, look at this original song from Yunda, isn't it similar to Fang Shiyun's Kiss You on a Rainy Day? Video, scrolling to the bottom of the comments section, they were all filled with curses. Film Emperor Qin's sister is only at this level? A Sanchi movie king can't teach his younger sister how to arrange music. It's really the tune of Kissing You on a Rainy Day. She can't clear her name now, what's the use of doing well in the exams? If you have a bad character, you're trash. Smile, is this how Film Emperor Qin teaches his sister? My heart aches for my Yun being scammed by Senior's younger sister. Birds of a feather flock together. Isn't the person next door wearing a fake high-end dress her best friend? Why didn't anyone check the origins of Film Emperor Qin's sister's gown? Who knows, there might be a surprise as well. After reading it, Song Yao's expression became unreadable. About half an hour later, Song Yao walked to the changing room and made a call. After the call went through, the other party laughed. Why are you willing to contact me now? I thought you would never want to see me again. I need your help. Song Yao pursed her lips. You need my help? Song Su, who was far away in continent K, was stunned. This cousin of his looked as gentle as water, but deep down, she was unyielding and never bowed her head to anyone. Even if the Song family went bankrupt and was in debt, she, as the eldest daughter of the Song family, was not willing to accept any help from him. Yao Yao, Big Brother is willing to help you. Song Su's voice was gentle. However, there was no warmth in Song Yao's eyes. She only clenched her fists. I have a friend who was accused of plagiarism. Do you really believe that she didn't copy? I believe you. Song Yao's soft voice was filled with an unprecedented certainty. Seeing that the netizens were scolding Bei Yunj and Song Yao as street rats, Yu Ling finally heaved a sigh of relief. Soon, she used her main account, which had more than 100,000 followers, to post something. Fish and porridge, respect the original creator, respect the inheritor of traditional craftsmanship. Not long after, the big influencers in the fashion industry also reposted it and mocked Bei Yunj and Song Yao, but most of their attention was still on Song Yao. After all, this matter was related to the fashion industry and Song Yao was a public figure. Late at night, an online carnival about the crusade once again kicked off. Many people kept sending private messages to Song Yao, Qin Yu, and Qin Lang, photoshopping their photos and cursing crazily. However, Bei Yunj, who was helping out in Si Qingyan's laboratory, had been doing experiments the entire night and did not know about the bloody storm outside. 5:30 in the morning. The moment Si Qingyan woke up, he saw that Bei Yunj was still doing data research. She looked energetic and did not look like she had stayed up all night. Master Pei. You did it the whole night? Bei Yunj glanced at him expressionlessly. Otherwise? Not long after. After Bei Yunj finished her experiment, she was about to go out for breakfast when she suddenly realized that there were dozens of missed calls on her phone. They were all from Yu Manran and Song Yao. Bei Yunj was about to call back when Yu Manran called again. She had just picked up the call when she heard Yu Manran's words. Fang Shiyun, that little B***tch, I'm going to skin her alive today. How dare she call me a thief and come to my guer's head. Chapter 13:18. Bei Yunj was speechless. What's wrong? Yu Manran did not expect the other party to suddenly call. Yunj. Why did you only pick up now? I was so anxious that I didn't sleep all night. Bei Yunj's eyebrows moved. My phone was on silent in the laboratory yesterday. Did something happen? I see. After Yu Manran regained his senses, he immediately gritted his teeth and said, Yunj, do you know what that B***tch Fang Shiyun is up to? She actually said online that you plagiarized her song, Heavenly Kiss You. I'm so angry. This little B***tch has the cheek to say that you plagiarized. That song of hers was originally a copy of your Spring Night Banquet. She used the fact that it's difficult to defend her rights in the country to claim that she's the most talented woman. Fang Shiyun. Bei Yunj thought for a moment and remembered that she had seen this person before. At her brother's party. Yunj, how about this? I'll go and find my brother to hide that woman and get someone to suppress the news. Yu Manran took a deep breath and said. However, Bei Yunj walked towards the canteen. Her tone was casual, but it was cold. Why are you suppressing the news? Do I look like I'm here for charity? Interesting. She was trying to cause trouble for her. Huh? Yu Manran did not understand what Bei Yunj meant. There's no hurry. It's fine as long as it doesn't implicate anyone else. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, Yu Manran frowned and slowly told Bei Yunj something. Yunj, Song Yao was accused of wearing a fake Gus Haute Couture. Currently, someone is investigating what brand of gown you wore that day. But don't worry, I've already asked my brother to settle this matter. He definitely won't. Bei Yunj stopped in her tracks and suddenly laughed ambiguously. There's no need to let Yu Hanran handle it. Someone will settle this matter. There were endless criticisms online. Song Yao's manager was even called by the higher-ups to ask Song Yao to apologize at the press conference. They were forcing Song Yao to admit it under the pressure of public opinion. Song Yao, don't you know how much trouble you've caused the company? In the past, you had big sister man's protection, so no one cared about you. But you actually dared to wear fake high-end clothing in school. Are you trying to send all our artistes to a dead end? The director reprimanded Song Yao arrogantly. The manager pursed her lips. Director, Yao Yao is still young. If you're young, you should be obedient and not play tricks all day long. First, you seduced Sister Qin Yu, then you seduced our sister man. The director had long felt threatened by Song Yao and her manager. After all, one of the artistes under her happened to have the same type as Song Yao. Besides, Song Yao was born with this personality. Her eyes were pure and gentle, full of spirituality. This type of artist was born to be popular. Think about it carefully. You can either apologize obediently or pay the penalty of 10 million yuan and get out of the company now. The director said coldly. Song Yao was silent for a while before she suddenly smiled and said, "Director Wang, are you playing word games with me? Did I sign with the company to apologize?" Song Yao's manager felt inexplicably proud. Although her Yao Mei was not the most popular, she was the most educated in the company. After all, he was a top student in the philosophy department of Yun University. Song Yao. Do you think I can't cure? The director was furious. Before he could finish speaking, the landline suddenly rang. After the manager answered the call, she said hesitantly, "Yao Yao, President Ming wants you to go to his office." The director laughed coldly. Song Yao, I want to see how arrogant you can be. Chapter 13-19. The director sneered and walked out arrogantly. However, the manager strangely felt that President Ming's attitude just now seemed to be very happy. Was this an illusion? Let's go. Song Yao did not care about this. If the company really wanted to freeze her, she would study hard and talk about other things in the future. However, the moment they reached the top floor, Song Yao heard the director scolding her for her arrogant behavior. Wearing fake haute couture. Isn't she obviously sending her head to the fashion industry? She didn't know if she wanted to go crazy or drag the entire company down with her. President Ming, a person like Song Yao is a scourge if she stays in the company. We must make her pay the price. Before she could finish speaking, President Ming walked forward quickly, his face beaming. Yao Yao, have you been under a lot of pressure recently? Do you feel any discomfort? If you're too busy, we should take less commercials and variety shows. Young people's health is more important. Hearing this, the atmosphere gradually turned strange. The manager was speechless. What was going on? Didn't the boss seem to have gone crazy last night and wanted to scold Song Yao? Boss, you want to talk to me about terminating the contract, right? With that said, President Ming immediately said, Yao Yao, I take care of you like my daughter. How can you want to terminate the contract? Seeing President Ming about to cry, Song Yao had goosebumps all over her body. The director was even more dumbfounded. President Ming, what's wrong with you? About Song Yao wearing fake haute couture yesterday, did you? Director Wang, watch your words. What do you mean by fake haute couture? The Gus headquarters personally called to admit that it's a super seasonal haute couture. How can it be fake? President Ming reprimanded. The director's face paled. What? How is this possible? Not only the director, even Song Yao and her manager were dumbfounded. Yao Yao, why didn't you explain to me? The manager was stunned. Song Yao was speechless. I didn't even know that this was a super seasonal Gus couture. Would you believe me? Yao Yao, you're so capable. The manager looked excited. Song Yao was speechless. At the same time, the people on the internet were still cursing crazily, joking that Song Yao was the #1 fake haute couture princess. And before this, someone had already posted a post. Fandom debauchee, this melon is real. The company of a certain highly educated and popular starlet who had been in trouble recently had a meeting and had decided to give up on her. It couldn't be helped. The influence of wearing fake haute couture was too bad. If they were banned by the fashion industry, even the company would be affected if they borrowed haute couture in the future. Therefore, in these 3 days, if the popular starlet doesn't come out to apologize, she will face a huge compensation. Seeing this, the crowd became excited. Finally, Green Tea Song is being treated. I hope Green Tea Song's bootlickers follow her shameless master out of the fandom. If you can't afford to wear high-end clothes, then don't wear them. I don't understand the vanity of female celebrities. Qin Yo Jiao is the elder young miss to begin with, what's there to compare, carry away my Jiao. I advise Song Yao's fans not to flirt with the B** cheese first. TSK, that real daughter of Song Yao's might also be a fake haute couture, right? Let's look into it together. However, about half an hour later, everyone realized that something magical had happened. Gus headquarters actually took the initiative to follow Song Yao's social media account and even took the initiative to claim that gown. Gus headquarters, fighting for the princess is my faith to the death. Song Yao, Gus super seasonal haute couture gown, photo. The photo was of Song Yao's blurry campus stage photo. P.S. Okay, let's go out for breakfast. Chapter 13:20. Instantly. Everyone looked at this post, but no one was able to react. Especially those in the fashion industry who had defamed Song Yao at lightning speed. They were simply slapped in the face by this wave of actions. However, when they regained their senses, everyone exploded. They reposted and commented. What the F*** CK? Gus actually borrowed a super seasonal haute couture gown. Since when can artistes in the entertainment industry receive such treatment? There seem to be only 3 artistes in our country who can successfully borrow a haute couture gown and get approved by the Gus headquarters. They are all ruthless characters in the industry. What kind of big shot backing does Song Yao have? She's too strong. Ha 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 ha, why are Qin Yo Jiao's fans so pitiful? They're showing off everywhere that Jiao Jiao is a princess in a million-yuan gown. The netizens aren't even worthy of carrying her shoes. In the end, the real Princess Gus is wearing a super seasonal haute couture gown. She's really killing several levels. Does her face hurt? This is my first time seeing such a simple and high-quality photo of Gus claiming it. It was actually claimed by the headquarters. According to the time difference, they should have claimed it as soon as they got to work. Ha 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 ha, I can see how anxious the Gus headquarters is. Daddy Gus really dotes on his sister, dog head. However, seeing these comments, Qin Yo Jiao's fans were unhappy and started to scold the passers-by crazily. A group of netizens who don't know anything other than talking nonsense. You only like to worry about nothing. My Yo Jiao is 21 years old and wearing a million-yuan gown. She's studying music at Yun University. Do you need to be jealous? If you're so free, come and carry my Yo Jiao's shoes. I won't carry her shoes. I'm not your brainless fan who likes to flatter people. I'm dying of laughter. I bought the million-yuan gown that Yo Jiao is wearing herself. Can Song Yao buy this haute couture herself first? Not long after the last comment went viral, to everyone's surprise, the brand's official account actually replied. Gus headquarters replied to Yo Jiao's little wife, she didn't buy it, but it was a gift. A gift? F***CK, Song Yao's connections are amazing. She gave her a super seasonal haute couture just like that. It's just a gown. How amazing is it? It's as if she can't afford it. This comment with a sour tone was quickly forwarded by a fashion influencer. I don't know if others can afford it, but you probably won't be able to afford it in this lifetime. The big shots in the industry have already given Song Yao's ultra-seasonal custom-made appraisal. The conservative price should be around 14 million yuan. Through this trending topic, the netizens were also shocked. It was as if they had entered a magical world. Are these the clothes that the female lead usually wears? This poor man is crying. However, there were also some people who tried to continue to blackmail her by buying expensive, high-end custom-made gowns. I'm speechless. I don't know what kind of twisted view of money they have. Are Song Yao's fans very proud to spend so much money on a gown? Don't you think that your master is a lackey of the capital and is bringing about a vicious influence on the public? Can Qin Yo Jiao's fans grow some brains? Advanced customization was not a profitable business for the fashion capital, and the profit was only 1% of the group. The annual high-end fashion show was not only to expand the brand, but also to protect the heritage of our nation's traditional craftsmanship. However, our country's traditional textile and embroidery techniques are also very good. It's just that they haven't been properly protected yet. the commenter above is right. Don't tell me you really think that the elder young miss can wear high-end gowns like Gus every day. Everyone, wake up. There are about 4,000 people in the world who buy haute couture, but there are only 200 regular customers. Chapter 13:21. I've learned something new. Even bystanders can be educated. Some countries really value traditional arts and crafts. I also hope that our country's traditional arts and crafts can flourish. Other aspects are getting better and better. Yes. The torch will be passed down forever and the country will prosper forever. However, Qin Youjiao's fans, who were already in battle mode, were still indignant. She didn't sign an endorsement or act as an ambassador. She's just an ordinary second-tier girl, yet she's wearing Gus. Who would believe that there's nothing going on? As a woman, I feel that it's very humiliating to have someone like her. I have a conspiracy theory. Previously, I said that Song Yao had good resources, but the top lady of Song Yao's company is Yu Manran. Even Yu Manran borrowed high-end clothes. What right does she have to be sent to Gus? Haha, I don't believe that Song Yao doesn't have a sugar daddy. Who knew? Qin Youjiao's fans were about to jump when Gus posted another post. Gus headquarters, Miss Pei, Rose, Gus commemorative high-end custom-made gown, the new work of the chief designer, Mr. Gao Meng. Just these 3 words showed how much importance Gus placed on this person. What was even more unexpected was that not only was the photo posted by Gus high in resolution, but they had also consciously cut off half of her face in the photo. This was probably the first time that Gus had claimed a photo that did not show her face. It also made the usually noble and cold Gus seem humble and heartbreaking. The bystanders were in an uproar. F***CK, I'm going to die. It was actually designed by old Mr. Gao Meng. Old Mr. Gao Meng has only designed commemorative gowns for 2 people in the past 10 years. One is the current queen of our nation's royal family, and the other is this person. My scalp is numb. What kind of F***king treatment does this person get? Is this really the young lady of the Qin family? Qin, you didn't receive such treatment at Gus, right? Ha 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 ha, I'm willing to call the real young lady of the Qin family a face-slapping demon. However, Gus did not forget to Song Yao in the comments section. When will our sugar daddy be free to come to our nation? Song Yao, the netizens immediately flooded in. Ha 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 ha, Gus, what's wrong with you? As the top one in the fashion industry, why are you suddenly so humble? Alright, not only did Gus prove that he has a sugar daddy, but he also casually hammered himself. Dog head, I love you so much. Can you ask your sugar daddy if I still have a chance? I don't want to work hard anymore. Song Yao, Qin Youjiao's fans, stop criticizing Song Yao. It's embarrassing just looking at her. So billion God and sister Sheikh RB. I cried. I'm speechless. Has everyone forgotten that the real daughter plagiarized? I'm dying of laughter. Until now, there's still no response to the plagiarism issue. Who's the one being embarrassed? To be able to be with such a morally corrupt person, it can be seen that Song Yao isn't a good person either. The trending searches were in an uproar. But not long after, another piece of information was revealed. The informant claimed to be an old acquaintance of Yu Ling. They were just nodding acquaintances, but he had always disliked Yu Ling's way of doing things. Hence, he posted an old photo of Yu Ling and claimed that this was the second time Yu Ling had worn this Gus gown. Therefore, Yu Ling was mocked by passers-by because she had just mentioned Song Yao and looked down on her for wearing Gus. Yu Ling could not stand these negative comments and immediately called Qin Youjiao for help. However, she did not expect to be blocked before she could finish. Qin Youjiao laughed coldly. Such a piece of trash still has the cheek to ask me for help. What should we do, Youjiao? The public opinion on Bei Yunj online seems to be gradually improving. Fang Shiyun's face was pale. Don't you have evidence? Now that you've posted it, it's also trending. What are you afraid of? Chapter 13:22. Qin Youjiao's voice was unusually impatient, making Fang Shiyun not dare to say anything. The atmosphere was cold. At the thought of Bei Yunj and Song Yao wearing Gus haute couture, Qin Yojiao's expression was exceptionally ugly. From Qin Yojiao's point of view, it was obvious that those two pieces of haute couture were prepared for Bei Yunj by that person from the Hu family. At this thought, the jealousy in Qin Yojiao's heart could not be quelled. Fang Shiyun probed, "Must my evidence be sent up now?" Qin Yojiao asked sarcastically, "You don't dare to do it now." Fang Shiyun, "It's not bad that you're popular now, but if you're caught, do you think Qin Yu and the rest will let you off?" Fang Shiyun's face paled. "But didn't you say, so as long as you listen to me, nothing will happen to you?" With that said, Qin Yojiao picked up her bag and prepared to leave. "I'll give you half an hour to send it out immediately. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that Qin Yu won't come looking for you." Hearing this, Fang Shiyun immediately panicked. Qin Yu was famous for being protective. Even if she was popular now, her status in the industry was worlds apart from Qin Yu's. She could tell now that Qin Yojiao was clearly using her on purpose. Half an hour later, Fang Shiyun posted something online again. "Fang Shiyun, I didn't want to say much at first, but I've been privately messaged many times. This is my first draft. It's a record of 3 months, I hope Miss Pei can give me an explanation." Picture, picture, picture. After reading it, everyone had different comments. "There's a way to clear the gown, but how can she clear the plagiarism? I advise some people not to be a bootlicker. A normal person has fans too. I'm vomiting. Song Yao's fans from next door actually have the cheek to bite Jiao Fan. No matter what, Qin Yu has never had a stain on him since he debuted, except for this younger sister. Did you notice that Qin Yu and Qin Lang didn't jump out to protect her this time? The two male leads they were talking about were extremely angry at this moment. Did someone in the company touch my account?" Qin Yu's tone was not good and his handsome face appeared dark. "Absolutely not." The manager was also very surprised. Why couldn't Qin Yu log into his account? But how could the company dare to control Qin Yu? The manager was glad that Qin Yu couldn't go up and didn't get involved in this mess. Over at Qin Lang's side, something similar was happening out of nowhere. It was as if someone didn't want them to speak. Song Yao was sitting in the classroom. As soon as someone called, she immediately answered the call. Song Su was surprised. After a moment of silence, he said, "You want me to manage Bei Yunj?" "Yes." Song Su laughed, adjusted his Bluetooth headset, and continued driving. "That's none of my business." "What do you mean?" Song Yao frowned. "I say, Yao Yao, are you treating your cousin as a tool?" Song Yao said nothing and Song Su continued, "Actually, I've seen her before and I quite like her." "But silly Yao Yao, does she need me to meddle in other people's business?" Song Su also comforted her, "Don't worry, she can solve this matter." Hearing Song Su say this, Song Yao suddenly remembered the relationship between Bei Yunj and the International Musicians Association, in the shooting gallery. Bei Yunj had just put down her bow when she received a call. "We've investigated the matter. Recently, Fang Shiyun and Qin Yojiao have been very close. What do you want to do with these two people?" Bei Yunj sneered, her tone casual and cold. "If I don't give these two pieces of trash a surprise, how will they know to be obedient? P.S. Thank you for helping Master Pei. He's currently 4th in the monthly votes. Not bad." Chapter 1323. Hearing this, even the person on the other end of the line felt a chill run down his spine. He could feel the hostility in his words. At this moment, it was obvious that there was a team behind the way Bei Yunj was being defamed online. The netizens were in high spirits and even affected the Qin family's businesses. Until 8:30 p.m. Everyone suddenly realized that an overseas company account that had not posted for 5 years had moved. KNE law firm, according to the evidence provided by the International Musicians Association, hereinafter referred to as the International Musicians Association, Country A's singer, Fang Shiyun, has released her work, Kiss You on a Rainy Day, in Country A. She has plagiarized Ms. Yun's work, Spring Night Banquet. This action has seriously harmed Ms. Yun's legal rights and interests. Our law firm has accepted the special entrustment of the International Musicians Association. We will collect evidence and prepare a lawsuit according to the law. We will definitely pursue the legal responsibility of the infringer, Ms. Fang Shiyun. Yun Fang Shiyun. Everyone was stunned when they saw the evidence posted by KE law firm. This was a death sentence. F***CK. Is Fang Shiyun shameless? She plagiarized Yun and still has the cheek to accuse others of plagiarism. Why aren't the talented female fans stomping their feet? Let's see how you talented women become famous. Ha 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 ha, they actually hired KNE. Is God Yun planning to strip Fang Shiyun of her underwear this time? I can't take it anymore. Plagiarize my God Yun. Goodbye, Yun's plagiarism. Why don't you F***king go to heaven? Fang Shiyun, hashtag Fang Shiyun get out of the entertainment industry hashtag, no one expected the public opinion to reverse. Fang Shiyun had already become a street rat that everyone wanted to beat up. However, real heiresses did not have many fans, but Yun was a real god with tens of millions of fans. Even some musicians who had not posted for hundreds of years came out to support Yun's rights. After that, Yun's fans immediately dug out that 14 of Fang Shiyun's 19 songs were suspected of plagiarism. Hashtag most likely plagiarizing Fang Shiyun hashtag this post was also pushed to the top of the trending searches by Yun's fans. Fang Shiyun's fans were so angry that they stomped their feet, but they could not beat Yun's fans next door. Everyone was horrified by the overwhelming combat power of Yun fans. I don't believe that Fang Shiyun's plagiarism. Now that he's here, he's probably trying to ride on the popularity and get paid for it, right? Fang Shiyun's fans are really shameless. With just the popularity of your pig brain, God Yun wants to freeload? God Yun single-handedly raised you Manran and helped Qin you break through the bottleneck. Which celebrity doesn't crush that useless person from your family? If you want to, just do it. Why? Do you have to pick a date to mess with your plagiarist dog? However, God Yun and film emperor Qin should have a good relationship. It's not strange for her to come. However, the matter of film emperor Qin's sister plagiarizing isn't fake. In that case, did film emperor Qin's sister plagiarize Yun? After looking at the top of the hot search list, Fang Shiyun couldn't help but scream and directly throw her phone away. How could this be? Fang Shiyun's face turned ugly. When she saw her manager walking over, she immediately grabbed her and questioned her, didn't you say it could be solved? Why would this matter be exposed? It was the company who said it. If this matter was exposed, Yun would not be able to kill her. After all, there were loopholes in the law that could be exploited. The manager's face turned pale. Sister Yun, this matter has blown up. There's news from the legal department that the other party is preparing to use our nation's law to sue us for infringement. Besides, the other party's lawyer is Yang Shuaing from KNE. She has never lost any of her subsequent cases. Fang Shiyun's heart instantly turned cold. Chapter 1324. KE could be said to be the largest law firm in our nation, and Yang Shuaing was the lawyer who made KE's opponents tremble in fear the most in recent years. However, even KNE did not expect Yang Shuaing to take on such a small case. What do you mean? Will I lose if we go to court? Fang Shiyun's voice was sharp and she seemed a little crazy. Sister Yun, go and beg Yun. The legal department said that Yang Shuaing is a very scary person. Not only will she make you spit out everything you've taken, she will also make you lose all the savings you've accumulated over the years. Is there no other way? No one can help me fight the lawsuit with her? Fang Shiyun kept scratching her head and asking. However, the moment she finished speaking, all she received was silence. It was only after her manager persuaded her to leave that Fang Shiyun, whose heart was dead, suddenly heard her phone ring. Her eyes lit up, thinking that it was Qin Yojiao, but she did not expect it to be an unknown number. However, when she answered the call, Fang Shiyun's face paled. Miss Fang, Aren't you going to look at the messages on your phone? I took so many exciting photos of Miss Fong. Aren't you going to enjoy them together? Fong Shiyun's face paled and she quickly checked the messages she had received. They were all photos of her meeting with Qin Yojiao in the past few days. How did you? Fong Shiyun forced herself to calm down. Qin Yojiao and I are old classmates. What's wrong with meeting? Really? When Miss Fong and your old classmates meet, do you always like to discuss how to deal with the people you don't like? Fong Shiyun panicked. What are you talking about? I don't understand what you mean at all. However, the other party's attitude was cold. You don't understand? Then I'll post the recording online and see if everyone will understand. Wait. Fong Shiyun's heart immediately jumped to her throat. She gritted her teeth. What do you want? Miss Fong, the price is 20 million. The other party was blatantly extorting her, but at this moment, Fong Shiyun could not refuse. She made up her mind. Give me your account number. Miss Fong, you didn't do this alone. Don't make it too hard on yourself. The other party seemed to be giving her pointers. After hanging up the call, Fong Shiyun finally remembered that the culprit of all of this was Qin Yojiao. How could Qin Yojiao be left alone? At this thought, Fong Shiyun immediately called Qin Yojiao. Fong Shiyun, are you an idiot? You actually dared to give me. When you met me, someone took a picture and recorded our conversation. Qin Yojiao, we're in the same boat now. If you dare to get off the boat early, I'll definitely drag you down with me. Fong Shiyun threatened with a dark expression. You. Qin Yojiao, who was in the piano room, was furious. She never thought that she would be threatened one day. Qin Yojiao was so angry that her lungs hurt. What do you want? Plagiarism is a stupid thing you did. I can't help you with anything. Someone extorted 20 million from me. Transfer it to him first. Taking a deep breath, Qin Yojiao almost fainted from anger. Where would I get so much money? I don't care so much. When I go to court, I might lose even more. Qin Yojiao, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been sued. Fong Shiyun said fiercely and hung up the phone. Qin Yojiao's heart was burning with anxiety. Afraid that Fong Shiyun would go all out, she asked her for her account and phone number. 20 minutes later. When Qin Yojiao saw the 20 million yuan transfer from an overseas bank, she gritted her teeth and braced herself to transfer the money to the receiving account.